What's up, people? Hotep Jesus. We are back with another uncomfortable conversation. As you already know, I'm a two-time author, three-time tech startup co-founder. You can find all my companies in the description box below. You can find my books in the description box below. If you want to create an immune system that can resist the COVID or prepare your body to attack the COVID, your immune system, that link is also in the description box below. It's basically a regimen on how HOTEPS boost our immune system using nature's items. Um, what else I want to tell you guys about? Got the investment for Wazo. We got about 110K for Wazo, the AI company, between two investors, looking at a third. I sent out a investor deck today. So if you guys are looking to invest in any one of my companies, let me know. I'm looking to value that thing probably like 500K to 1.2 mil or somewhere in that area. Chat, can you just tell me how the stream looks? Looks a little bit choppy, right? Doesn't the video look a little bit choppy? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know in the chat how it looks. Okay, yeah, it seems to be catching up now. But without further ado, let me introduce my guest, the homie, Thaddeus Russell. Thaddeus, what's up, bro?
Hey, so good to be here.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Every time we've had a conversation has been like fucking epic.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no idea what to expect from tonight.
Mm.
Um, but what I do know is we're gonna dive into some of your early childhood stuff.
Oh shit.
Then we're gonna figure out why you decided to specialize in my people's history, why a white man decided to specialize in my people's history,
Uh-huh.
and then we'll dive into. It looks good, chat. Great. And then we'll dive into some of the other topics.
All right.
So first of all, where you from again?
Berkeley, California.
Berkeley, California. Yeah,
Yep.
you white.
Wait, hold up. So listen, first of all, didn't I go over this with you? the Oakland border though. So like which where southwest Berkeley along the Oakland border. We were 2 blocks from the National Black Panthers headquarters, all right? So my neighborhood was integrated. It was mixed for sure, but I'd say it was probably about 50 to 60% black for about half my childhood. So I was not no. And then there was 2 years when we lived in Oakland, and I went to a school that was about 80 to 90% black, and I would walk into school and be like, there is no God. God doesn't exist, because my dad was like an atheist, communist. I'm like, there's no God. And I just remember just like black dudes just be, just,
Yo, what grade is this?
Oh, that was like 4th, 5th, 6th grade.
Oh, damn.
But the worst was the black girls. I told you about the black girls, didn't I? Like they just terrorized me all the time. Yeah, this was like the time of so this was I am actually Berkeley was the first city in the United States to forcibly integrate its children by busing in 1970. Okay. Right here, your friend was one of those children. I was one of the very first children in the United States to be bused for integration. So Berkeley is trying to create like perfect equality. And there's actually like a large enough black population here that I don't know what it was, but I mean, every school had at least, I'd say like was at least a quarter black, but it was like each one was equal, right? So all the schools. But anyway, there was like a lot of like mixing, like, but it was like forced. So what do you think that meant? Like, when you get like little egghead white boy, skinny ass white boys like me, walking around talking about no God, and you're a dude from like South Berkeley, near the hood, like near the Panthers headquarters, and like I was a sitting duck. So and I wasn't the only white boy who got his ass kicked and terrorized and like made fun of and spit in the face of. And yeah, I mean, I remember once this was in between periods and like the whole hallway was empty and I went to my locker. This was 8th grade. And I thought that the whole hallway was empty. I've never told this story to anyone. All right. Already.
Hotep Jesus exclusive.
Already you owe me. And put my whatever, close the locker, and I turn, and these two kids, both black. I don't think I knew either one of them at all. And they just walk right up to me, and one of them just goes and spits like a big ass loogie, like directly into my face. And like I didn't even think, see, this was the thing, like that school, like most Berkeley schools, the principal was black, half the teachers were black, and especially like the enforcer assistant principals, all, the disciplinarians, they were all black, so it wasn't like, so I felt like I just couldn't do anything. So I just walked home.
Wow.
And I've told you how I was getting my ass kicked on a fairly, not badly, like no one ever like really hurt me, but like just enough to like show who was boss, basically. On a regular basis,
like once a week.
What's that?
Like once a week?
I mean, yeah, probably for a while there. Yeah, something like that would happen. Again, it was never like they would never really do anything bad to me. It was just like showing, like they would hold me down, maybe choke me a little bit. Like I think I got punched in the face maybe once. Yeah. And the spitting thing, that was by far the worst thing, though. That was bad.
Yeah, that's disgusting. Yeah,
that's bad.
That's just distasteful too.
So
how did you go from getting your ass whooped by black people to kissing a black girl?
Right. So yeah, like, but I want to say like that story. All that other stories, like that's one of the big untold stories of like American race relations, is that little period of like social engineering when the progressives took control and they're like, we're going to take all the fucking children and we're going to mix them just the way we think, put them on buses like they're fucking Jews in the Holocaust, by the way, right? Think about that. They forcibly put children on buses every day. And then to do like a racial social engineering project. What the fuck does that sound like? That's what that was. And we were just the first city. And then it was Boston, and that was really famous. But like a lot of cities across, I don't know. Do you ever get bussed for that reason?
No.
Not for that reason.
Not for any reason.
You didn't get bussed to like whatever, a white school to
I've never ridden on a school bus.
Unless
it was like a field trip. I was very privileged growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the funny shit, man. See, like the class difference between us, it's kind of like, I don't know who's more street. I don't know.
Thaddeus might be black.
I'm not saying name too. I'm not saying I'm blacker. I'm just saying, like,
yeah, somebody got to tweet that out. Thaddeus might be blacker than Hotep Jesus.
I said no. I said more street.
More street.
I'll be I'm gonna have to hold your hand crossing the crosswalk, man. You'd be like, like with my son. I'm like, no, see, that's when it's green, that's when you walk.
Nah, that's crazy, bro. Yeah, so, like my dad wouldn't let me. He felt like, my son will never drive, will never take public transportation. Are you serious? That's how my dad was, military guy. And even my brothers and sisters, when he was in the military, they were like chauffeured by the military, to and from school. And I think they took school buses in Jamaica, but yeah, that's how my dad was. He's very, very protective of me.
Yeah. That's like, can you believe that shit though? Like that was it became like a national project, the progressive.
Let's extrapolate that, right? So yeah. What is the higher agenda behind them wanting to forcibly integrate people? Right? Yeah. Like, what are they trying to do?
Well, I've been trying to answer exactly that question for about 20 years now.
Okay.
Like by reading everything those people ever said, the progressives, the racial liberals, black and white, mostly white, but black too. Like, so, I mean, the black ones, like the civil rights leaders, basically, they were straight up, very clear. We want to be like you culturally, like white people. We want to dress and speak. I mean, King said this, and like, look it up. Like,
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "I want to dress like white folk."
hell, yes, he did. Yes, he did. Look. He gave a series of sermons in 1957 and 58. I read it. It's in my book. But it's online. You can just Google it. It's right there. The Martin Luther King papers are all online. He was getting up in black churches and giving sermons saying, "Black people, you need to stop drinking. You need to stop fornicating. You need to start working hard. You need to," and he said, and you need to adopt the norms of white people, like straight up to their faces. Like if someone said that today of any color, even a black person today, like,
Yeah.
right?
Except for
They'd
Joe
get
Biden.
crucified.
I think Joe Biden could get away with it.
Right, except Joe Biden would get elected president for it. You Negroes. Oh, we'll vote for you, Joe. God damn.
Damn. So they wanted to be like white people. That's deep.
So that's that's definitely the black liberal, black progressive civil rights leadership. Absolutely. They said it. Assimilation. Assimilation
And
was the word.
what were the alternative blacks, the Hotep blacks saying?
Oh yeah, well, we'll definitely get to them. But like, so I'm sympathetic, of course, to them. You have to be, right? Because like at least partly,
Right?
Because they were under fucking Jim Crow. Like, that shit was real. This is not fucking around like what we're talking about now. College campuses and this was like you were not allowed access to shit. As a human being that you should.
Right.
It was simply, well, then the question is whether it was just strategic, right? Because that's what people said. Like, we have to show, like King said this, we have to show white people that we can be like them in order to like get over, in order to get first class citizenship. That was the whole argument. That's what he said. They all said that. John Lewis said exactly this. That's what he was about.
Wait, the John Lewis that just passed away?
Yes. John Lewis was like a right-hand man of Martin Luther King. He said all this shit. They were all saying this. We need to act like white people. We need to prove that we can behave properly, seriously, in order to get the vote, which of course, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only important thing.
Right.
And a Civil Rights Act, which, you could argue was basically unnecessary by that point, because by 1964, people were walking up to drugstores and were like, okay, if you don't integrate your shit right now, we're going to have about 500 people down here, and then the national media is going to be on your ass, and it's going to be very embarrassing. And they're like, they were folding across the South. Like, so, I mean, that's all they got out of it, actually. It's very likely that there would have been integration, not to mention the fact, oh my God, I mean, what is happening in the 1950s and 1960s among like white young people? We were talking about wanting to be other races, right? Like even in the Deep South, they all wanted to be, either they wanted to fuck Chuck Berry or they wanted to be Chuck Berry. That's not that much of an exaggeration, and so, I mean, that's why Chuck Berry.
White people wanted to be black and black people wanted to be white.
This is correct. Isn't that funny? That's I've never put it that way. That's right. But that's right. Well, certain sections, right? So like, right. It's the black political class we're talking about here. Let's be really clear and really specific.
Yes.
Black political class, the self-appointed, in almost every case, leaders coming either almost always from the clergy. Sometimes just they're like commies who can like ascend outside the church, but usually they come from the church. But that class, and that class, also known as the black middle class, like we call them that in academia, right? Their discourse, their way of thinking, their politics has like not budged since the Civil War. Like they've been straight up, we must assimilate. We must be like white people. I mean, they may not use those terms, but like,
right.
what do they dress like?
White folks.
Who invented the business suit? Where do you think that comes from? Ghana? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like what? Well, I mean, even most white people don't wear that fucking thing anymore, right? That was invented to like cage the white man's body, to like desexualize it in ways that black people were not about, right?
uh,
So anyway,
uh,
but yes,
wait. You can't
yeah,
just skip by some facts like that. What are you saying about this suit
do it.
caging people's bodies?
Okay, so
What do you mean?
the business suit, right, that we know today, was invented in the 1830s, right?
Okay.
And it looked pretty much, it's essentially the same thing as it is today. But the whole purpose of it was to make all men look the same and to
Mm.
also make them desexualized.
Mm.
Because,
Desexualized.
because it was a work uniform. It's a uniform, right, for
Mm.
work. But for like upper class work, relatively
Mm.
upper class work, but still, it's a work uniform, and that's why like lower class work uniforms, like, I mean, they've been made sexy. They can be made sexy, but they're not intent. They're they look like prison uniforms, right?
Right.
They're like desexualized, right?
Mm.
They like hide the body. Everybody looks the same,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So that's the business suit. So it was very puritanical, and it actually
Mm.
came out of like puritanical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It came out of partly the church, the
Mm.
business suit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very anti-sex,
Mm.
very anti-sexual for men.
Mm.
People always talk about how women are always being shamed for being sluts and being sexual, which is totally true. But men too. Men have been like, it's not okay. It's never been okay to be like a playboy back then it was called a cad. You
Mm.
know, no. So that's what the business suit was about. It was about
Mm.
like getting us ready for capitalism,
Mm. Mm.
discipline,
Mm.
order, uniform, like the military. See, like
Mm.
I'm for markets. Like you and I, we agree. Like we have a libertarian like economic policy in our plank, right?
Right.
But at the same time, capitalism's got some shit in it that's like unpleasant while you're going through it, right? I mean, like
Absolutely.
getting up at the same time every morning, it fucking sucks, right? No one
Yeah.
likes
Yeah.
that. And then once you're in the office or the factory, like there is no First Amendment. the
Yeah.
boss
Yeah.
is the boss is Mussolini, like,
Yeah.
and he can do whatever the fuck he wants to you, and you have nothing to say about it, pretty
Right.
much, short of violence, right?
Right.
So yeah. Anyway,
That's all right. So I love that piece, right? Because I went through some sort of spiritual awakening many years ago, almost a decade now, and I threw out all my suits and all my neckties. I'm like, I'm never going to wear this white man's uniform again, right?
cool. Yeah. All right.
And I haven't worn, and I've even tweeted out like, never trust a black man in a suit, right? Now, this
Mm.
is something that I've learned subconsciously because I think people use it as a tool to scam. Go ahead. What was you about to say?
Oh, sorry. No, I was about to ambush you with with a question. So,
What?
all right, this is where you and I might start to diverge a bit. All
Let's
right.
get it. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe I can. I want to see if I can bend you back to in my direction. Okay.
All
So
right.
so far, like we're agreeing kind of on the business suit, but like we dislike it for kind of different reasons, right? For me, it's like
Yeah.
puritanical, and it's like anti-pleasure, and for
Yeah.
you, it's the white man's like prison suit in a way,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Which
Yeah.
I don't disagree with, like but like so anyway.
But
But
I
but
do agree. I do agree with your side too, though. That's part of my reasoning, right? Like
yeah,
that was
yeah,
the first reason. And the first reason was like, who said I need to wear this thing to be
right,
considered professional? And what the fuck is professional mean anyway, right? Like
right.
I've always been like trying to rebel from that.
Right. So no, so far I think we're in sync, and like it's all complementary, like
Right.
the ways we're thinking about this. But so let me ask you this, and I'm not sure what you're going to say, but my guess is that when you went through that spiritual awakening and rejected the white man's garb for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
did you go Afrocentric? Is that where you went?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now,
I know where you're going with this.
okay. So that's what I figured. That's what I guessed. All right.
Yeah.
Now, so I'm not opposed to that at all, of course,
All right.
but
You pointing out the hypocrisy.
no. You don't know where I'm going.
Okay.
So what did like black, like working class, ordinary people, not the political class, okay? Not the political class, regular black people. What did they do with the business suit following that, like over the next like centuries?
Well, they turned it into things like the Zoot Suit.
Bam! The Zoot Suit,
Yeah.
which, by the way, black people don't get total credit for. You know who invented the Zoot Suit?
Cool.
Filipinos.
Filipinos is black, so we taking credit.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. What? They are the N word of Asia. Yes, that's what they like. They call themselves that, right?
Yeah.
That's why they got like the fourth largest basketball league in the world or something like that. Do you know
Yeah.
that? Yeah,
I know that.
the PBL or something.
Wow.
Manny Pacquiao plays in it, and that's why they're into boxing too. Because they love they've because you want to know that story? You want to know that story?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, tell it.
So the Philippines is situated right Southeast Asia, where it's that major shipping hub, right? Like if you control that shit, you control everything. But but there's all those zillions of islands in there, right? And all these little waterways and shit, and it's all really everything's. The Philippines is close to like every major Asian capital along the coast, right? So they had all these ocean liners back in we're talking about the turn of the 20th century, like 1900, okay? All these ocean liners, but that were like based in Manila. They would just go to like Yokohama, Tokyo, Shanghai, wherever, Hong Kong, right? So this was this huge industry, and it was filled with like Filipinos like working on those ships, right? And then jazz jumps off in New Orleans, and the Filipinos, there was a Filipino community living in New Orleans, and they brought some of the jazz back to the Philippines, and the Filipinos loved that shit, and they took it on, and like they started becoming like amazing jazz musicians and then jazz dancers, and they had jazz bands, but they're all Filipinos, and they performed on these ocean liner ships for the whites and whoever was, or not the whites, the Asians and the white tourists, right? So jazz gets spread, black music, black culture gets spread into Asia via the Filipinos, and who get called niggers by the Chinese, who were like, get the fuck out, and piano playing devils. Because they were spreading black culture.
Wow.
And to this day, the Filipinos, and every Filipino I've ever known in the Bay Area has got a big Filipino community. So I grew up with a lot of them here. They're all proud of that shit. Like the big DJ, the best DJs, not MCs, but when hip hop was starting when I was in high school here, were all Filipino guys.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like they love that black culture. They love, so anyway, that's
you see it a lot.
So that's that
called
story.
My black cousins. So the Zoot Suit, who gets credit for the Zoot Suit?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So this was it's a fascinating story. So there was a little Manila because of the American Empire, right? This is another reason the Filipinos knew about black culture, was because we went over there and occupied their country in 1898, right? And some of those soldiers were black, and they brought the music with them also. That was another reason. So once that happens, Filipinos are granted access to move to the United States, and a lot do, and they move to LA in particular, and here the Bay Area. I'm in Oakland now. And they established Little Manila, which is like a neighborhood in downtown LA. It's still there. And there's a tailor, apparently, who had, I guess it was actually not even blacks were the third group to get to do the Zoot Suit. It was Chicanos first. It was Mexican Americans. Yeah. So there was a Filipino. The Filipinos like invented the style of the big exaggerated shoulder pads and the big long drape coat and the big baggy pants and the hat and all that, right?
Okay.
And then the Mexicans took it up, and the Mexicans really made it big. And like you were like, if you were an 18-year-old Mexican dude, you wore a Zoot Suit in LA for sure. And then finally, then it got into South LA with the African American population, and then it jumped over to Harlem, and then that's when Malcolm X started wearing a Zoot Suit, right?
Yeah. I do remember seeing like some old Latino movies, and the Latinos had that. They did have on a Zoot Suit.
It was Mexican.
Mexican, right, yeah.
Mexican American, not Mexican. It was Chicano.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah,
Mexican
before,
American. Yeah.
but then black. I mean, but then it became very much a black thing, and then like white like hipsters, like
Hmm.
white jazz musicians and shit would also wear zoot suits for a while.
Right.
But the zoot suit became a symbol of rebellion against fucking everything in the United States, man, because it started in the middle of World War II.
Mm.
What was going on in World War II was severe rationing of everything, including cloth, right?
Mm.
It was illegal to use excess cloth in the making of garments. What did these fucking Mexicans and Filipinos and black people do? They used like way too much cloth because they were like, fuck you and your white man's war, and I'm not fighting it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So the zoot suit, because they were all draft dodgers.
Uh,
The zoot suiters were all like Malcolm. Malcolm writes about this. This is a huge part of the autobiography, right?
uh,
All the zoot suiters were interested. A lot of them were pimps. A lot of them were drug dealers. A lot of them were hustlers of various kinds. They were about dancing and fucking and getting high, and they were not about fighting in some white man's stupid ass war. And so they made up all these. And so these are the guys. Great heroic stories of going to the draft. Well, you know Malcolm's story about going to the draft board and being like, "Yeah, give me a gun. Let me shoot some. I'm gonna shoot me some crackers. I can't wait. Yeah, can't wait. Give me a gun. I'm gonna go shoot me some crackers." Oh, well, okay. I was in Vietnam, but anyway.
yeah.
So but the zoot suits become like a symbol of like resistance to the war, to like fighting in the white man's war, to fighting in this stupid war in the first place,
Mm.
and all of that. So they get lynched. So a bunch of Marine, not blacks, but Mexicans in LA who were wearing the zoot suits. There was a big pogrom, like a huge riot called the Zoot Suit Riot of 1943 in LA, which was just like white, like soldiers and sailors just like rampaging through the streets of LA, beating the fuck out of Mexican dudes in zoot suits.
Mm.
And they had long hair that was part of the uniform, and they would like cut their hair off also, which
Mm.
was like a symbol of resistance, right? Because the military had the close haircuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would rip off their clothes and beat the fuck out of them. I don't think anybody was killed, but like lots of Mexican dudes had their asses kicked, and nobody went to jail for this. So this was it was a big deal. It was when like the black and Latino working class was basically really declaring, fuck this is not our country.
Right.
This is not our country. You know, we'll live here. And if you want to give us a job and pay us money, we're good. Right. But I don't even know about what Japan is. I don't even give a fuck about Japan. Like they are no threat to me. Germany, that's entirely crazy. Like that makes no sense. That's not relevant to our lives whatsoever.
Mm.
Right? It's, you know what I mean? Like like this country's never been ours because you fucking white people said it wasn't in the first place. So why should we adopt it now that you want us to go to war?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Muhammad Ali.
yeah, I mean, but Ali was like he politicized it and like gave it an ideology and like a framework. I'm talking about like I think most people, you know, of all colors don't do that shit. They operate in this way where like white people have the United States generally like part of their identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when we see a cop, we feel like comforted.
Yeah.
We relax, like the blood
Yeah.
pressure goes down when we see a
Yeah.
cop.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Unless we're like truly poor whites, maybe. But like most white people actually go, right?
Yeah.
That's like, and so the nation state's like in our heads more. Like the flag is in there.
Oh
Right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's part of it.
Nobody loves America more than a white man.
Right. Whereas like the black population that has not been the political elite,
Yeah.
the political class, by and large, fuck no. Like not interested. So that's my book. That's my book. That's like my big argument about African American history, right? Is that like because of slavery, thank you. Yeah, that's chapter 2 and 3 I'm talking about. Because of slavery, because of segregation, because the white people forcibly kept black people out of their fucked up puritanical repressive culture, right? This is the thing. It's like people assume that like white culture was good.
Uh-oh.
Where, right? No one, it's like we throw around the term white supremacy. Okay. Now you tell me what is a deeper form of white supremacy than just assuming whatever white people have created everyone must have.
That's it right there.
Like a bachelor's degree from Harvard. Like, who the fuck do you think invented that? Like, and
Yeah.
who the fuck do you think dominated it and was there for hundreds of years before they let a brown face in the door? I mean, my God, people. Right? So white people have this thing. So there was this, I tweeted it the other day. I saw this hilarious tweet. It was like Mother Jones, you know, the big like left-wing magazine. They had this expose. They were mad. You know why they were mad? Because it was really difficult for these black guys to start the first black-owned glossy food magazine. God damn, that is disturbing, man. That black people were deprived of glossy food magazines. And I wrote, rich white people invent things and then assume everyone else needs to have them.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? You know, like when they had to invent that ballerina star, what's her name? The black one. There was this whole.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah. So you know what happened?
What?
This was like in 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
There was like a concerted campaign to get black girls to take ballet classes because it was like it was a problem. I'm like, well, I think it's a bigger problem that there aren't enough white girls in hip hop classes, actually. But you know, like, why is it a problem either way? Like, what do you? It's a European form. Like, why do you assume? Why aren't we troubled by the fact that no white people are taking West African dance classes? Because like almost none are, except about 5 hippies. You know, like
yeah.
But it's like a fucking national crisis if there aren't black people doing ballet.
Yeah.
Which isn't even like a fun like white formal who like I mean, you know, and it's like same with baseball. Like, so as soon as like black people of course, black people were the first people to figure out that the game was fucking boring. So they started leaving it in about the 1980s. They're like, wait a minute, this shit is boring. And then became like in the 1990s, there was like a concern. We were like, wait, this is a problem. We don't have enough. There are not enough black baseball players. And I'm like, yeah, because black people are sensible enough to understand that this fucking game is boring. It takes 3.5 hours. Who the fuck's got 3.5 hours to watch two like men throwing shit around, you know, and pausing for every, you know.
Yeah.
But that comes from slavery, man. It's about not internalizing the United States and its culture inside of you and merging it with your identity so that it becomes one with who you are. So like the black political class since Frederick Douglass, and he was the founder of it, they've all been about merging the fuck out of themselves with the United States of America. Like,
Freddie?
Right? But very few other African American, who we call African Americans, have, right? Because if they had, there would be no jazz.
Hold up. I need you. What's the dirt on Frederick Douglass? Because he's a little too popular to be.
Okay. I mean, all right. So, I mean, there's a way to talk about Douglass that would be like, and it's all true. I could tell you something.
What are my options?
I could tell you something that would sound like nuclear Breitbart, but it would be true.
Okay.
But it's not. There's more truth to it than that. All right. So here's the dirty part. Here's the dirty part about Frederick Douglass that no one except historians talk about. They keep this shit a secret. But this is true of every single abolitionist, including Harriet Tubman. Black abolitionist. Every single one. All right. Who have memoirs, right? Diaries. They didn't write a damn word of those books. And they were written, every one of them was written by white abolitionists. So, and they were all totally exaggerated. Because white abolitionists, like, they were writing propaganda. Like, they wanted the United States to go to war against the South, like, in a big way. They needed to, and most white people didn't give a shit because it was like about black people in the South. So they didn't care in the North. So they had to write this like almost pornographic depiction of slavery. Like,
Mm.
so if you look at Frederick Douglass's autobiography, it's bullshit. I mean, it's made up. It's made up. It's completely not that there were no whippings or rapes,
Right.
but if you go read that book, it looks like it's like a Django Unchained. It's like that, where it's just like nonstop whipping and beating and like torture, and like as if slavery was intended to harm. The purpose of slavery was intended to harm people, black
Mm.
people. It's the
Mm.
stupidest idea, right? That's the
Mm.
stupidest assumption that people have about it still to this day. Like
Mm.
the white, here's the white man thinking, oh, you know what? Let's make some boats, sail across the ocean, kidnap a whole bunch of people way far away who we hate,
Yeah.
bring them back on the ships to make them live with us,
Yeah.
right next door to our wives and daughters
Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
for their entire lives, so
Yeah.
that we can torture them and hurt them and kill them.
Yeah.
No, it was to get the fucking cotton picked.
Yeah.
Like that was the point of slavery, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so like
So abolitionists
it's
were
yeah.
they're using black abolitionists as mouthpieces, kind of like
Yeah.
how they use the black political class today, whether it's on the left or right. And it's like, here are the talking points.
Exactly.
And as long as you stick to the talking points, we'll keep pushing you.
It's exactly the same. Now the thing is, of course, we're opposed to slavery, right? So it's
Right.
not like, so this is propaganda like against slavery. So it's not like it was, the worst thing in the world. But
Right.
in a way, it also was the worst thing in the world at the same time, right? Because it's like, all right, here's the deal. This is from the white abolitionists. Here's the deal. We're gonna free you people from slavery, but we're gonna write literally the text
Mm.
of
Mm.
that moment.
Mm.
We are literally writing the text of what happened. We are writing your history.
Mm.
Literally. We are going to write the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. We are going to write the autobiography of Harriet Tubman. Okay, but it's all right because we're going to let you free though, and we're going to protect you from the crackers. We will. They did. They put the Ku Klux Klan in prison for real. They crushed the Ku Klux Klan. But that was the deal, man. And so the white abolitionists, because they were absolutely, you nailed it. They were totally the ancestors of today's racial liberals. It's all paternalism. It's just paternalism from beginning to end. It's the same basic paternalistic dynamic.
Right.
You are weak. You are vulnerable. It's our fault. And we feel bad about it. And therefore, we're going to make it up to you by treating you better now and taking care of you and giving you what you didn't get when you were children.
Right.
Except you're still children.
You're still children. Exactly.
Because we're going to have to keep giving you the money because you people are so pathetic. You can't get it together to fucking make yourselves make any money. So we're going to have to. But they won't put it that way. They're gonna be like, white supremacy is eternal.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to keep. That's right.
I gotta be your daddy.
That's the Ta-Nehisi Coates' argument, is because white supremacy is eternal, right? That's his whole argument. That's the whole. This is the whole argument now. Like it's this it's a spiritual thing. It's like a ghost that floats above history. Like it's insane. It's voodoo, man. It's like a belief in some weird god, It just comes down and strikes whenever it wants to, as if people aren't inventing it and reinventing it all the time. Of course, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. Thank you for the $5 super chat, Landry Harmon. He said, I would love for you guys to discuss what Thad and Michael Miles talked about in regards to societal reaction to homosexuality and male bonding.
Oh, Jesus. Trying to start some shit already.
What did you say? What did you say? Well, Mike, shout out to Michael Miles, by the way. One of the first people to put me in a studio interview. What y'all talking about?
Your favorite subject. Homosexuality.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. Wait. I'm trying to remember what
he said.
What was the point?
Reaction to homosexuality and male bonding.
God damn. It was Malice's argument actually more than mine. I honestly, I don't really want to repeat it because I wouldn't do it justice.
Right.
But he was basically making an argument, I think, in defense. I know he was making an argument in defense of like us. We should all defend homosexuality because it like clearly delineates who's who,
Mm,
right? Like
mm,
displays of homosexuality, right?
mm-hmm,
Instead of saying faggot, we should be like, yeah, faggot. Like
mm,
yes, like good, good, good. Yes, you're faggots and we're not, and right, and faggot there's nothing wrong with it, right?
mm,
And blah, blah, um, and therefore there's no ambiguity, and therefore less fear of the gays, right,
mm,
et cetera. I mean, I think that's Malice's argument, but
mm,
you guys
mm,
can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure.
mm.
But
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah, I don't know. There's more to it
Um,
than that, but yeah.
so I want to talk about the suits again, right? So the evolution of suits. So we
Oh
go
yeah,
from Zoot suits,
yeah,
right? And then after Zoot suits,
yeah.
we start seeing like gangsters adopt the suit, right? And then we see black gangsters adopt the suit, like
Yeah,
Bubby Johnson and Frank
right.
Lucas and so on and so forth.
Harlem,
Is
yeah.
yeah, they like
Mhm.
getting away from the Zoot suit and going to like a more professional look to kind of hide from police and law enforcement, or what's happening there?
That's okay, right. Yeah, thank you. That's an awesome question. But yeah, that brings me back to what I was going to say to you. So, what was I going to? You had something negative a long time ago to say about the suit thing, but I was going to say, oh, I know what it was, right? Because you rejected it. You rejected the basic business suit for Afrocentric clothing, basically, right? Garb,
Yeah,
whatever.
right,
And again, like, no, this is not at all a criticism, but like, it's not like black. And I was about to say, it's not like black people just took that suit and just like kept it the way it was and like
right.
wore it, right? The Zoot suit. My point about the Zoot suit was that they completely like remade the suit, and they made it in this way that like celebrated the body.
Mm, mm,
It didn't
mm,
hide the body.
mm.
It said, "Yeah, I am beautiful.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
am beautiful." Remember the phrase "black is beautiful" back in the
mm,
1960s?
mhm,
A
mhm.
lot better than Black Lives Matter. Please, please, please.
Please help me.
Don't you know that we matter too? We're fucking kindergartners. No, man. Black power and black is beautiful. And if you don't like it, go the fuck. We don't give a fuck. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that should
simple.
have been the attitude. Yeah,
It's simple.
yeah. Some people
Um,
don't even get that.
but so yeah, so my point was like, so like Robin, and by the way, Robin Kelly, this is the man. Okay, he's a historian. He's a communist, unfortunately, but he early on, his early work was a lot about this stuff, and he was like a big inspiration for me. He's a historian at UCLA. Robin D.G. Kelly. He's like one of the most important like African American historians, but he wrote about the Zoot suit, and he was like he made this argument. He was like, no, it was like countercultural in all the best ways.
Mm,
It was like not only, and it wasn't just resistance. It was also like pleasure. It was like, why do white people love black culture so much? Because
mm,
it sucks and it's boring? No, because it's like because it's
mhm.
where the fun is in this fucking country, It
Yeah.
always has been. So with the suit, they like exaggerated it and made it into a show and a performance and a celebration of the self and the individual. And by the way, if you're a libertarian or have libertarian sympathies, right? Like this is individualism, right?
Mm.
Because each one made it their own thing, and it was all about like
Loud
me.
colors.
It was all about me, not the nation, not
Mm.
the United States nation, right?
Right.
It was about me, and the not fuck the how the dress code of the United States, and fuck the military, and fuck the war, and all that. I mean, it's about dancing. And that's what they were really into, was dancing. There's that great scene in Malcolm X and Spike Lee's movie where it's a
Yeah.
great scene. Everybody said that's a great scene of they're all in zoot suits and they're all on the dance floor. Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Feather in the hat and the
Oh my
big
god,
loud hat. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Hell
it's
yeah.
the best.
When I was a kid, I wanted one. I
It's the
wanted one so
best, right?
bad. So then, yeah. So when did they clean that up? Like,
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, what? So the zoot suit. Oh, the great thing about the zoot suit, and there's a whole book about it. Guess what happens to the zoot suit? Uh, it go there. There's like newspaper reports from Hungary in 1946
uh,
about like kids in Hungary like wearing zoot suits on the street. What? In the Eastern Bloc? Are you kidding me? Like communism, under communism? Yes.
uh,
Yes. oh my God, in Moscow, like they were putting kids in prison because there were so many people wearing zoot suits. There were Russian kids wearing zoot suits. In the Soviet Union under communism, Czechoslovakia, same thing. They all had their own names for it, right? Based on the language.
Right.
But then it was in Italy and in Spain and in London and in Paris and in Tokyo and in Shanghai and definitely in Manila. Right?
Yeah.
And all over the world there were news reports of people wearing of kids, young men wearing zoot suits and dressing, sounding, dancing, talking like Black Americans. And you want to talk about like, so there's American imperialism, right? Which is, we will impose our way of life on others at the point of a gun. If you don't, do what we say and act the way we want you to act,
right,
we drop nuclear bombs on your cities, right. Essentially, right?
Yeah.
The Japanese can tell you all about that, right? That's why the Japanese sound exactly like me today in this country, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I forgot where I was there.
We talking about Zoot Suits. You say
Zoots, right? And then
you say it's spreading all around the world. Kids, communism, all of it.
Yeah, so it's spread all over the world. Oh, imperialism, right? So there's forcing of our way of life, like a culture, like, and that was always like American formal culture, like English language, not street language, of course, right? And like the business suit, the old business suit, the traditional business suit, and there's so like the Filipinos were all taught that when they were colonized by the United States, all that stuff, right? But it comes back here and it's I'm losing my train of thought again. Sorry. Like the Zoots are like, the point is that like African Americans are violating the norms. And then that's what turns on, I'm getting it now. This is it's not imperialism, but it's like the culture spreads out like organically. There's something so deeply attractive about that, the freedom that that about like exaggerating your shoulder pads when there's a dress code, a fabric code, right? That becomes international, global. Black culture starts spreading out in all these other countries, even behind the Iron Curtain. It's incredible, right? I mean, everywhere, like in Asia, right?
How's it spreading? I guess through newspaper media.
Yeah. So this is in the 1940s. So yeah, there's newspapers all over the world. There's also newsreels, there's movies, there's television starting, but there's newsreels mostly. So a lot of newsreels and movies, and there's Zoot Suits in movies by that point. So yeah. And jazz is the music. Jazz is the music, and Black performers are like all moving to Europe and Japan to play. So Black, there's like this amazing thing. This is the book I'm working on now, which is that you have like American imperialism marching around the globe, blowing people up and taking over countries and invading and occupying, blah, 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 blah. At the very same time, you have American pop culture, most of which, not all of which, but definitely most of which is like driven by Black fucking slave culture, plantation culture, right? Basically, what I've been talking about. That's taking over the world from below and doing exactly the opposite. It's liberating people. So imagine you are a Stalinist communist dictator, right? In 1950, whatever, right? Who's your worst enemy, right? The general in the fucking Marine Corps or Chuck Berry? Look what Chuck Berry did to white women in the Deep South in the 1950s. He had sex with a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, he did. And
not because he raped them, because they wanted to have sex with him. They like besieged him after every show.
Yeah.
Right? Look what in Jim Crow, Alabama, a Black man did this and was proud of it. Let me ask again, who took down segregation? Was it like John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson who signed those bills? I'm sorry. I'm not even sure it was Martin Luther King. I am damn sure it was Chuck Berry. As a matter of fact. Oh, yes. They were very ready for integration by the time Chuck Berry got done with their daughters.
You're right.
I mean, so, and my point is, this is now has been a global thing. Once you get that Black culture out there, that slave culture, which is not identified with any nation state, it's also anarchistic. right? And that essence, right? There's no state in there. There's no nation
Right.
in there. You can make a
Right.
black nation like you might do, but you know what I mean? Like there's no,
Yeah.
even then, even though there's no state, even in the
Right.
Hotep nation, right?
Right.
Which is why you guys don't scare me at all. But like, right? But like, think about, and then that, I'm just in the 1940s, right? What's gone on with black culture globally since then? Like, where is it today? Go look at the top 40. I just pick a country, pick
Yeah.
a fucking Pakistan. I guarantee you there's hip hop on that list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
Absolutely.
or like, this is really common, like Pakistani performers who are like hybrids of they like look and sound kind of like Beyonce, and I definitely watched a lot of Beyonce, but they sing in Arabic. Right? That's very, very common across the Middle East, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So isn't that amazing? There's like a black global, I don't even know what you would call it, like counter empire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all these regimes hate that shit. They all ban
Mm.
it. The Nazis banned it. Soviet Union banned jazz. Japan banned it in the 1930s. China, the communists banned it. The nationalists banned it. Hell yeah! I mean, it's never been liked. It's all the mullahs in the Middle East. What do you think they think about Beyonce? Right? Like they issue fatwas, like all of it. See, this is a challenge to your traditional conservatism, though. Your
Oh yeah,
Hotepness.
it is. Well, not mine. You know, I'm very, very
All right.
flexible. Ryan Mason, 4.99 super chat said, "What has been the cause decline in suit wearing, especially in the workplace, over the past 30ish years? Startup culture? Yeah, I think it's definitely startup culture.
What is
Um,
that though? You know what? That's actually a good question, like to talk with you about, because that's about masculinity too, right?
is it?
Yeah, I think so. Because Camille Paglia, I haven't really read her, but I've heard her say this. Or maybe I've seen her write like a little thing about this. How it disturbs her that like men now dress like boys. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it kind
yeah,
of when I read that, I was like, oh shit. I looked at myself. I was like, yep, I'm wearing t-shirts and shorts. Like, what?
yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
grown fucking man. Um, there is something going on there, and this is like across colors and class and all that. Like, everyone is like dressing down, but especially men, right? Like, we dress increasingly like children, I think.
Mm-hmm,
And I'm
mm-hmm.
talking for myself too. I'm not, but do you notice? I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that there was probably some sort of ignition. You know, somebody ignited that. Like one corporation probably did it. I know. I want to say it was Zappos was one big corporation that like really changed the culture of the corporation. Like we're dropping suits. Nobody just professional. Wear what you want. You don't care. And they had a really really good culture. So I think that maybe you know. People started thinking about like turnover rates in a job situation and
Mm,
how do you keep people there longer and
yeah.
happier, right? And then
Hmm.
I think startup culture realized how hard it was to get people to work at a discount, right, or work for sweat equity. And it's like you can't ask somebody to work for sweat equity and tell them to dress up at the same time. And I
Right.
think that startup culture started to be adopted by other people, or by other corporations, and
Right.
said, "Hey, we're not doing that here." But I think it has to do with keeping happy employees. I think it's an inevitable thing, though.
Do you have like so? All right. So again, I'm curious to what your take is on this. Not that I know you're interviewing me, but for me, like I have like mixed feelings about all that stuff about like the merger of work and leisure, right? Like
Mm-hmm,
that the tech kind of pioneered that you're talking about, right? Like
hmm
when you go into like tech, I've been in a couple of offices here in San Francisco, like tech offices, and yeah, it's like a bunch of like it's exactly what you imagine. It's a bunch of like young, mostly white, skinny kids like playing on toys and then coding. I guess,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
there's a bunch of like play and a lot of like kind of living there, and you can just see like everybody's like eating and like lounging on the sofas, and it looks
yeah,
like people probably slept there overnight.
yeah.
And I'm sure they basically probably do just live there and are always there. And now, okay, so on the one hand, obviously, like you and I do work that we love, right?
Right,
We are like the point whatever 0.001% of people who get to do that, right?
right, right.
Um, which is great. for us. But at the same time, and that's what we're getting at. Like they love their work. That's why they're there all the time, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I get that. I get that. That is my life now. In fact, like it's all like merged.
Yeah.
No, it's like all blurred, right? And even like my friends are like also like kind of like and somehow involved in the business in some way or another, right? I mean, it it's a curse too, right? It's like a blessing. It's a beautiful blessing that we have this freedom and we're doing what we want to do and we're creative and we're getting paid for it and all that. But like, it's also a damn curse, right? Because it never leaves you. When you're the boss, heavy lies the head, right?
What do you
With the
mean it never leaves you? What never leaves you?
the stress, the worry, the concern, like you're always thinking
Yeah.
about the business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Aren't you?
That's why the white man created PS4. I should say the Japanese man.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, right. It's just to distract you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I have a hard time, um, like leaving those thoughts. Right.
Right.
So
I
that's
can't do it.
what, Ghost of Tsushima's for. Right. I get to slice some people up and that's my escape. And
I
for
can't
that
even
moment,
do it.
yeah,
I can't even watch a movie like by myself.
I have a hard time with that
It's
too.
right. It's gotten really bad. Like I can only do it like just to do it with my girlfriend or with my son, just like as a family man. But
Yeah.
by myself, I can't watch a whole movie.
I could never watch a movie by myself.
I feel like I have to go do something. I have to go work. Like I have to
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I'm like, yo, I don't
I
got
have to go
2 hours to sit here and watch this shit.
2 hours. Are you crazy to watch
You know what
some
I
like
could do in
stupid
two
fiction?
hours?
Yeah, but that's terrible, right? That's
Yeah,
terrible. Like if it's not like somehow improving myself or my relationships or my business, I don't do it now. That's how bad it is. When you're a businessman, like
yeah.
I don't do shit that's just for fun.
All right, so I'm
Nothing.
not crazy. So somebody else is going through this shit too.
No, man, I don't do anything that's not like the only thing, nothing. Something, but the great thing is though that you and I but we get to do work that's also fun, like right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like right
yeah,
now, this is
yeah.
fun, but it's still work,
Right,
I
right.
mean, so, I mean, I don't know. And so we kind of are living the life of a tech person. For us, there's no line between life and work.
Right. That's true.
And I don't know how I feel about that. It almost sounds like communism. You feel me?
Uh, uh,
Right? Because that's where they wanted to get us.
mm,
So
that blur.
I'm a little nervous about that. I'm a little
Mm,
nervous about that.
that's interesting. I'm gonna have to
I'm a
let that
little
sit on
nervous.
my
And I'm
mind.
not saying I know. I'm just thinking aloud here with you. Like I don't
Right,
know.
right.
I don't know. Makes me nervous though.
Hmm.
That like like you go to a tech company here, like that's not too far away from what communists would kind of like to see. It's
Mm,
just with public ownership, but like everybody, like work and life are all merged and everybody's all together in the same place, working and living all the time together.
mm,
That's not me.
mm,
That's not.
mm.
I don't know about that.
Well, that reminds me of your book, right? Where you talk
Exactly.
about like the standard of living difference between a slave and a rank and file white man, right?
Yep.
And
Amazing, right?
yeah, I mean, so I want to kind of like draw the correlation between that and like this work thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you keep your slaves from running away? You make things more comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like beating them
Right.
has the opposite effect, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of like what's happening now. Is like
Right.
slave master, like, how do I keep y'all on the plantation longer?
Exactly. Right. Well, this is how stupid the whole system was. And this is like one of the things that like Northerners said about it. It's like, you dumb motherfucking crackers, listen to me. When you force people to work, how well do you think they're gonna work?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So they don't work well. Okay. So you whip them. Okay. You think that's going to make them work better over the long run? Maybe, yes, for sure, for a little while, right?
Yeah.
To keep the whip cracker. That's where that word comes from, right? To keep the
Right.
whip cracker off of them, right?
Yeah.
But okay. You think the slave's going to slack off at some point in the rest of his life? Of course he is. Probably in the next like week or two. In fact, as soon as the cracker turns his back for too long or goes and takes a break.
Right.
Okay, they find out. All right, now what are you going to do? You can whip that slave again?
Yeah.
And then how much labor do you think you're going to get out of that slave?
All right. Right.
Just how stupid do you think these black people are? My goodness gracious. Like, they like, let's see. I don't own shit. I have zero rights. I am chattel. I have the status of an animal. My people were kidnapped and brought here, blah, blah, and the only reason to work hard at all or well at all is just to keep this fucking dude from whipping me in the back with a leather cowhide. Like, no, I'm going to do just enough to not get whipped and not one fucking bit more.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
Because these were rational human beings.
Right.
These were rational human beings. What kind of fool would work any more than that? No one is that stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's what happened. So yes, in fucking deed, they were shiftless. Yes, they were shiftless. And damn straight, and they were national heroes for it. National heroes for that. Not for being slaves, but for saying fuck you and your whole nation.
Right.
I mean, hoeing this row for your cotton. Fuck, that's just the beginning.
Right.
Fuck the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that when you come to us and ask us to fight in your wars, we're going to have a draft resistance rate of about 30 to 50% in World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam. Black men were like, whose war is this exactly? Are you crazy?
Right.
You seriously think I'm going to get motivated to go fight in a war for you people?
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens after slavery? A lot of them decide to say, you know what? Nah, this shit was better at Master's house. I'm going back to the plantation.
That was the beginning of the Civil War that Chris Rock talked about.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's basic, and it's not changed in the basic dynamic since then. Since slavery has been, the black political class has been yelling its ass off at black people to pull up their pants for 100 and whatever it is, 70 years now. Like, it's this exact same shit. And then a whole bunch of the rest of the African American population doesn't pull up its pants. And it continues. Like, I mean, what does Barack Obama say every single time he is in front of a black audience? I don't think there's ever been a time he's been in front of a black audience when he didn't start ranting and raving about how shiftless and sexual and lazy and all they, right? That's when he starts giving his Martin Luther King, right? We gotta shape up speech. He is the most patronizing. Have you not noticed? Like, he and Michelle too, whenever they get in front of a black audience, they turn into that. And I'm like, you're from Hawaii.
Yeah.
You didn't even see another black person until you were in like college. Do you know about Obama's parents? You're gonna love this. You know about Obama's parents?
Mama's a Caucasian woman. His daddy was an African. I believe they split up. And
you're gonna love this.
What's that?
You're gonna love this. That's all correct. So his dad was Kenyan, right? His mom was a white woman. So they were both academics, but they both worked. So his mother worked for the Ford Foundation, doing development work in Indonesia, training Indonesian businessmen American practices. Okay, including American culture. Okay. All right. Just hold on there.
All right.
Barack Obama Sr., Barack Obama's dad, was a member of a political party in Kenya that was sympathetic and aligned with the United States of America.
Okay.
All right. Now, we also know that the Ford Foundation was completely funded and directed by the CIA.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Saying them hot button keywords on my channel.
I told you. We also know that the political party that Barack Obama Sr. worked for his entire career was directed by the CIA.
Okay.
I'm not done.
All right. I'm
This
following.
the school at which Barack Obama's parents met and copulated and had him.
Uh-huh.
It's called the East West Center at the University of Hawaii.
Okay.
It was established by the CIA.
Oh boy, here we go.
You can look all this up.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote an article about it for Reason magazine. It was
I,
not.
I remember
It
this.
was nominated for a journalism award. I am not. I am not a crackpot. Yeah.
I
So,
remember. I remember. You're
so
jogging my memory now. Keep going.
Barack Obama is the son of the CIA.
uh,
Done. I'm done.
uh, uh, uh. Do you think they were put together to,
Fuck.
put together to create that new world order leader?
Think about that. When I didn't know that until I had to write. I got assigned to write a review of these biographies of his mother.
Yeah.
And I was reading them, and like they didn't say this stuff in the biographies, but I pieced it together. I was like, wait a minute, he was born here, and there was then, da, da, da. I was like, and then I found out, oh yeah, it was all CIA. That dude came from an entirely CIA, and no black people were anywhere near him.
So is he a test tube baby? Is he
No,
was he
okay,
or was there organic? Was their relationship together organic, or was it bred? Were
I
they
don't know.
bred?
No one knows. But no, I don't think it was a conspiracy. Like
Mm.
you don't. Here's the thing, man. You don't need a conspiracy when you control that much of the culture,
The
right?
conspiracy is
When
already in place.
you're gonna get. I mean, if you're doing a lot of if you're doing a lot of racial engineering, like we talked about with me, right?
Mhm.
And and so the Obama coupling, his parents, that was like the racial liberal dream, right?
Right.
That's the dream. You have a black and a white create an Obama, right? Who's like the perfect citizen. Uh, and so you're eventually, if you do that, if you mix all those children together via whatever means, busing or otherwise, and you keep telling them being like, being a good upstanding citizen who obeys the laws and speaks English correctly and tells black people to pull up their pants,
Yeah.
etc. And most importantly, doesn't fuck with the American empire.
Mm. Mm.
Keep your little
Mhm.
hands off that empire, boy.
Mhm.
Keep your little hands off that empire, boy.
Mhm.
And that's what the general said to him,
Mm.
probably in those words on day
Mhm.
one.
Mhm. You know that.
And they said it to Trump too, and Trump was like mostly like, okay.
Yeah, you get that talk when you walk in that
Yeah,
office.
the generals were like, you've been talking a lot of shit, Mr.
Yeah,
Trump. Let me tell you
yeah,
something. But I mean, Obama didn't need that talk. He didn't
right.
need that. My
Mhm,
point is,
mhm.
he didn't need that talk. He was ready to go. He was CIA.
Yeah, he knew what was going on. He was
Yeah,
bred from the start.
yeah.
So let me run my theory past you. You can tell me what you think about it, right? The reason for um the forced integration, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to explain it succinctly, I think it's forcing homogeneity,
Mm-hmm.
creating homogeneous society, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the point to make the culture homogenous is to make people easier to control because then you only have to infect one culture instead of many different cultures, right? So, for
Yes.
example, when we look at like the Indian people that move in by me, like they're getting Americanized, but they're still keeping their culture, right? And they still have their way of life and the
Yeah.
things, the way they do things, right? And you're gonna have a really hard time trying to infiltrate that culture, right? But these
Mm-hmm.
black and these white folks have
Mm-hmm.
so much culturally in common already that the more we blend them together, the more we can create a hive mind,
Yep.
right? And as long as we
Yep.
can create that hive mind, like for example, like people say there's a right and a left, and really now it's just one whole fighting itself, right? It's like an autoimmune disease, but everybody's still having the same exact conversation. So you are of the same thing. You just have different opinions about the same things, but the issues you're talking about, most of them are irrelevant, right? So you're of the same stock, and I
One.
think that's my theory on the top. What do you think about that?
I think that's 100%. And I got a whole stack of receipts for you too to
All
back it
right,
up. I
all
mean,
right.
where do you even? I mean, yes. Where do you even begin with that? Like, so, like, it's like there's so much to back that up. I mean, that is the history of cultural imperialism.
Mm-hmm.
That's with with military imperialism backing it up. I'm talking about real shit, not
Right.
So when the Europeans go to Africa and Latin America, what do? They're like, okay, here's your church, here's your religion, here's your language, and oh, by the way, you work for us as slaves until we tell you otherwise,
Right.
right? And and here's your
how
set
you
of laws, and here's your constitution, and here's your president, and da 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 da.
Yeah, I saw a African man, an African judge with the European wig on his head, and that shit was just eye opening for me. I'm like, yo, y'all niggas is still colonized.
Wow.
Got
Yeah,
that white.
that's like Frantz Fanon's colonization of the mind theory, right?
Okay.
That we talked about, right? Like with the white wig, right, on the black head, like that, like symbolizes it so perfectly. Like, can you imagine the George Washington wig on like a West African's head?
Yeah, like come on, yeah.
A West African's head too. Like, can you imagine?
Right.
So, damn it, where was I again? Keep throwing me out.
I mean, it was so much we're trying to unpack on, the integration and creating that homogenous society, right? And,
so control, hive mind. Yeah, so imperialism. Yeah. So it was always about that. It was always about not just expansion and conquest. Well, the Romans did it. I mean, they invented it. They invented the whole thing. And Julius Caesar was straight up about it. He was like, we're going to conquer all of Gaul, which is basically all of what is now Europe, right? Western Europe. And we're going to like make them all fucking Roman. And he did, like pretty much, like, the Roman law, Roman roads, Roman customs, Roman everything, right? To all the way to you and me. Like you and I like have Roman culture inside of us, right? As far away as we are from that, right? So yeah, and that was in part to control your point. This is your point. Exactly. Right. Of course. Right. Because because Europe until that point was what? A bunch of savages. It was a bunch of different savages. That was the problem. A bunch of different savage tribes.
Right. Right.
Speaking of like, we were Kangs, right? Like it wasn't white people who were Kangs.
Like Germanic tribes and all of that.
We were cavemen. We were not Kangs.
You about to hurt somebody's feelings in the chat.
my people, the Celts. Oh goodness! I mean, we were like the worst people ever. We were like just like an inch above ape. Like
really?
The Celts in Wales and Ireland. Yeah,
that's the original Irish, right?
Yeah, we're the ones like we were the absolute N-words of Europe. Like
yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. No. And there's good evidence. Like in some ways, there was some like boat that came from somewhere else to get them there, but like the Celts were badasses and treated that way too.
Yeah.
Until like 100 years ago, by the way.
Right.
Not long ago,
Right around the corner of history.
So yeah, but no, this the cultural imperialism, right? So okay, take it to the United States, right? So after the Civil War, if you read my book, I do a whole thing on this, Reconstruction, federal government, Freedmen's Bureau schools, 2,000 schools across the South. Thousands of ex-slaves go through those schools. They teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's great, but they also teach them, guess what else?
What?
I told you. Well, here's how you speak. You don't use that slave dialect anymore, Hotep Jesus. You got time to code switch, everybody.
Yeah.
And if you don't, but the thing was, it wasn't funny though. If you don't code switch, you know what we're going to do? We're going to throw you back to the crackers who have now organized the Ku Klux Klan and will lynch you. So you better speak our English correctly. You better dress in the business suit. This was when black people first got a hold of the business suit. None of this slave dancing. No. We don't dance except the waltz. Right. You know why the waltz was popular in the United States for white Americans? Because you dance in what pattern? A square. With stiff elbow, with stiff joints.
Yeah.
West African dance is just the opposite, right? And there's a whole like body of scholarship about West African dance and like the bent elbows and knees being really apart, and how that would just like work to get exactly against like the puritanical white American culture. And then so it wasn't just slave culture; it was a mix. By the way, I got to say this: it wasn't just slave culture; it was slave plus the West African culture that created what I'm talking about here.
Mm.
America's original renegades.
Right.
The reason that so many white people have wanted to be black in their lives. This is what I'm getting at. This is what I'm getting at. It's that
Yeah.
it's that combination of like, when you're a slave, you have no responsibility for the nation, right? Think about that. You don't give a fuck about the United States. You have no sense of responsibility. We were talking about what it's like to be a business owner and the responsibility that haunts us all the time.
Right.
Or being a parent, right? You and I are both parents, right? That never leaves you, right? So imagine having the United States as like your child as well, right? That's what a lot of white Americans did, and some blacks too, who volunteered to fight in these wars, etc.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the whole thing, is that the black consciousness, so much of the black consciousness, as Frantz Fanon was talking about, was like decoupled from the white man and from the United States and everything that it expected. Whereas white people just assumed that it was all right and good and correct. And so whenever we see a badge and a gun, we feel good, and we feel like, until they shoot us too, which they do.
Right. Absolutely.
Which they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are on the other side of the Puritan. Me, I'm reading your book, and I'm like, let's go, Puritans, clean these motherfuckers up.
I know. It's funny. I know.
So let's kind of like dive into that a little bit and debate a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yesterday, Cardi B and
oh my god, I couldn't wait to talk about this video. Thank you.
Yeah, you wanted to talk about it? All right, it's perfect then. All right.
Oh my god, it's all I could think. It's all I could think about all day after I saw it this morning. I swear, I couldn't get it out of my mind for hours.
That video is, for anybody who hasn't seen it, is called WAP. WAP stands for What Ass.
Highly recommended.
Thaddeus ass loves it. The animalistic male in me loves it, but the Puritan in me goes, "You damn devils, you demons."
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So how is this not dangerous for the future of people? How is this not dangerous, Dad?
How is it not? Cardi B and Megan, how are they doing? I mean, well, Megan got shot in the foot, but besides that, but she's okay.
She's back to dancing.
Oh, damn it! All right, yes, no, all right. Look, okay. I said this on somebody's podcast just recently. I forget whose. Might have been Malice's, actually. I don't know. All right. Here's the deal with black culture. You ready to hear about black culture?
Let's get it. Let's do it. We're about to battle.
You ready to learn about black culture? Yeah. Hotep Jesus. I'm about to teach you about black culture. Okay.
I'm laid on me.
No, I mean, I think you'll agree with this. I think this is like commonsensical. Like when I laid this out to Killer Mike, he was like, "Yeah, no shit. We've been saying this for years." It's a package deal, right? So what I'm calling the slave lineage culture, right? The non-political class people, not the bougie people. I'm talking about just regular working class people. Okay, it's a package deal. So like, it's the best of America in there, without a doubt. And by the way, that's like almost a unanimous opinion. Like, there are very few Americans left who think that like America without any black contributions, would be fun, right? I mean, like, even like pretty square Americans now are like, thank God for those Negroes because we got the rock and roll out of them, whatever, something, right?
Yeah.
So
you speak a point about Killer Mike.
So it's the freedom of the body,
okay,
the freedom from the Puritan work ethic.
Yeah,
great things. Gave us jazz, gave us rock and roll, gave us hip hop, gave us all the good stuff. Gave us slang, gave us the American vernacular, right?
Yeah.
But you know what else it gave us? Lawlessness.
Right.
So because it wasn't just the norms that didn't apply, it was also the laws, right? Or the norms, more importantly, that backed up the laws.
Right.
So why is it that like black people are so disproportionately represented in the drug trade now? right? Because I'm saying that historically they didn't give a fuck about the norms of the country, and one of the norms was that drugs are bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're excluding like that's why the Jews and Italians dominated the illegal alcohol trade in the 1920s. Same thing, because they were excluded at that point.
Right.
They were kept out. So they're like, we don't care. We're going to sell booze to whoever, right?
Right.
That's why the mafia invested in gay clubs, gay nightclubs, right? Because they didn't give a which is weird because you think of the mafia as like super macho, but like, no, they don't, I don't give a fuck. It's a profit. It's money. It's green. I don't care, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So, but anyway, so the mafia also was full of stone cold killers.
Right.
Right. The blues music, right, which was the first kind of like popular descent. Well, there was like ragtime and then blues, but like the first like lyrical music that came out of slave culture, like in the turn of the 20th century. People have this image of like the old black man, like with a guitar or a banjo sitting on his porch, like singing about how sad he is. Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love this, right? The popular image, right? Oh, how sad I am. And then the blues is all about how hard it is to be. And my daddy was a slave and I was a slave and how sad it is to be. But no, it was gangster rap. It was like, no, like I fucked that bitch and then she fucked my friend and then I killed that bitch. And I mean, it's like, it's nasty.
Okay.
It's nasty. Yeah, no, it's very violent and very what we would call misogynistic now. We didn't call it that then. There's, and by the way, there's scholarly articles written about this. Mary Beth Hamilton is the scholar who's done this. This is not, I'm not making shit up here, but yeah. So like Robert Johnson, if you go look at like these famous blues dudes, all those guys, it's nasty stuff. By the way, there's a lot of homosexuality in the early blues too. You know about that?
No.
A lot of homosexual references in the early blues music. Yeah. So like, and I'm talking about the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, right? So you have like basically that kind of what we would call gangster rap mentality, right? Is a part, but blues is also like everything that's great about America at the same damn time. Like, and great about America and black culture at the same damn time, right? Like hip hop, it's the same thing, right? Hip hop, like a world without hip hop, imagine. It's hard to.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine a world without, because not just the music discreetly, but like its influences in all other forms of music.
Right.
My God, like what genre hasn't had some hip hop like version of it? Like every opera has, every country music has, everything, right?
Right.
But
Broadway.
But hip hop, so hip hop is wonderful and liberatory and has made the world dance and has integrated people voluntarily, like brought black beautifully, right? That's beautiful, like black and white voluntary integration around like a love of a music, around desire, around pleasure, you know, right? But at the same time, like hip hop comes out of like the mouth. It was invented by criminals. I mean, like, sorry, but like the dudes in the South Bronx, they were also doing some really bad shit. I mean, so it's, you know, like the mafia sold booze when it was illegal. Great. Funded gay bars when it was illegal, basically. We think is great. You know, they gave people jobs. They gave people money. They helped widows. They gave people medical care.
Right.
But then they would put a cap in you like with no problem.
Right.
We know this, right? So like, but it wasn't like you could disaggregate that. So it wasn't like there was a nice mafia and a good mafia culture. It was all the same thing. So that's what I'm saying, that like what like black conservatives and like white conservatives call the culture of poverty, you know, the thesis, right? That's why black people are poor, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, I think I'm sympathetic in a sense to that, right? I think that's true. Like, yeah, there is an aversion to work still. Yeah. Come on now. We can't can continue to like pretend otherwise, right?
Right.
We can talk about why, but you know, hip hop lyrics are not about like the work ethic and the nuclear family, are they?
Right.
Like,
No.
And if anything, they're getting further and further and further away from any of that. For like a minute in the 80s, they actually talked about like romance and maybe getting married someday. But like since then. So anyway, it's just like, I don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
it's a big it's a big mix.
Let's go ahead and use your own ammo against you.
Go ahead. I'm not scared.
The Irish come over here
Yeah. Oh, good.
Treated like shit,
You
right?
got it. Yeah, you got it.
Clean they act up, they
Right.
rise in society.
Right.
Italians come over here, treated like shit, treated like niggas.
Mm-hmm.
Clean they act up, stop
True.
that dancing and all that shit.
Yep.
Rise in society.
I know.
I look at that as a net good,
Yep. All right.
right? They
Yep.
rose in society. The only people that ain't clean they act up was the goddamn black folks. And that's why we're still here today, because we haven't cleaned our act up.
Even the gays did before you.
Mm.
Even the gays beat the blacks. Damn, my goodness.
Cleaned up. Cleaned they act up.
Like, damn, they were just like dancing in the streets, dressed up like women 10 years ago. And then all of a sudden they're like full Americans, treated like normal. Not even that. They're losing the Olympics of oppression now, right? They're like at the bottom now.
Oh.
Like the gay men are considered to be like oppressors now. You know, God damn, that was fast. So anyway, yeah, black people, the only group that hasn't cleaned their fucking act up.
Yeah.
God
And you see, this is good.
Shameful.
You think this is good?
Well, no, I'm saying it's a mix. I'm saying it's a mix. And here's what I'm saying. Look, seriously. You fuck, I don't know, man.
Where's the balance?
I know. I'm thinking about your life for a second here. Like, cause I know that you're balance, you do balance. Well, it seems like it. I mean, you're obviously immersed in quote the culture, but you're also like all about the family and raising your kids pretty strictly and with lots of rules, and like you got plans for them, and like it's the real deal, and you come from a military family, and you know, and you still have some of that in you, right?
Right.
But see, that's all Jamaican. That's not American.
It is. You're right. You're absolutely right. 100%.
It's all Jamaican.
Yeah.
It's all Jamaican.
It is.
You know, by the way, you know my theory for that? So why are Jamaicans like this? Because they took control of their country and then had to take responsibility for it. Yeah. Black people had to govern. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Black people, they had to govern. And you
but
can't.
Still with British rule, though.
Yeah, they did. What are you talking about?
I mean, they're controlling it, but the British still control the culture.
Yeah, but they got to manage it. They manage it for sure.
Yeah, they are the managers.
Black people don't manage shit and never manage shit in this country. Well, except for the cities.
Yeah.
But that's my point, though, right? Like Jamaicans merged. They've suddenly merged the nation state with their identities. Like even Bob Marley did. Like they all did, right? It was even cool. Like even the Rastas did. Like it was cool.
Right.
So, but that didn't happen here. That didn't happen. It's never been cool among Black Americans. Thank fucking God to wear a red, white, and blue flag. Thank God.
Okay.
Thank God. Right.
Right.
Except among you weird Black Trump voters.
Exactly.
You're like the only, and there's like 5 of them.
Yeah.
So, and you know every one of them. But you know what I mean? But like but you're with me on that, right? Like you don't want to be an American nationalist. You're not into that about Trump, right? Are you?
No.
All right.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
You know, I'm definitely about like, I'm an anarchist, you know, I'm like on the anarchist and like.
Yeah. So I'm saying give the Shines a little credit.
Wait, Megan Thee Stallion.
Actually, that's more the Akata, isn't it? The Shines are the Shines are the political class, right?
Correct. Yeah, I guess they could be considered that.
Isn't that what you guys mean by that?
It could be some overlap. There's some overlap in the Venn diagram.
The Akata just means African Americans, right? ADOS.
The whole shebang. Yeah.
So yeah.
And then there's like Jamaica, right? Like the difference between like Jamaican culture and here. I think the difference is the difference between British culture and American culture.
There's that too. That's very important. That's part of it.
British culture is very much like even when I grew up, my dad is like, you know, fork in the left hand, knife in the right hand. Definitely. You know, this is how you close your plate. It means you're still eating, right? Like that's all British culture.
Definitely. Yep. That's part of it. Yep.
Yeah. So
But there's also very much a Jamaican culture that's like definitely not British. Right? Yeah. And there's it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid culture. Like
right.
Like all are, right? That one happens to be whatever. So I know. So I don't know. So okay, my point is like it depends on what you want, right? Like I believe I'm an anarchist in terms of values and morality too. So I try not to impose my morale, and I think it's a bad idea to do that. So like, ask yourself what you want, okay? And that's not up to me to decide at all, unless it's about hurting me.
Right.
Then I might have a say in it. But if it's not about you, tell me what you value in life, what you want in life, and then it's just a question of strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, right? There's just how do you get there fast enough? How do you get there as fast as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want your kids to be coders and to make a lot of money in tech, shut up and code.
Right.
Exactly what sounds like what you're doing. Like, like, you know what I mean? It's not like you're confused. You're not confused. Like you get it, right? And also you're you're very aware that the elements of the culture that I've been talking about, you're very aware that they're anti-work and can definitely get in the way of making money, of gaining that precious capital that Black Americans so terribly don't have, right? Lack.
Mismanaged.
Right? Yeah, I mean that's your whole argument, my argument too, right? It's like you fucking need capital before you can have any power.
We have capital, we just don't know how to keep it.
Right. Meaningful capital. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then converting it into political, like real political power, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I always call it mismanagement.
Yeah, so I mean it's like tricky, like, so I mean, yeah, you have to have discipline. So, but on the other hand, if we got rid of all vestiges of slave culture, right, and made hip hop clean, you want to make hip hop clean, and you want to make it all sound like Common and John Legend, like duos, right?
Yeah,
that's what it would be like, right? Yeah, right.
No,
So
I still need some music that has a little bit of murder in it, a little bit of 187 on the motherfucking cop. You know, I need just a little bit of that.
But you also want that anarchic, rebellious, oppositional, fucking right.
Yeah.
When you see a cop, your blood pressure goes up, not down.
Right.
And if you're an anarchist, you want that spirit, okay? And I'm saying in this country, that has been centered around what we call the Black working class since slavery, since during slavery. And it's partly because of their position as slaves, that they never took responsibility for being Americans, thank God. And it's also West African lineage, the culture coming up, partly that. It's that combination, right? Which was so antithetical to Northeastern New England puritanical white culture, and so free in terms of the body in particular, right? No wonder, man, that white people were like, thank God there's some people who know how to have some fucking fun around here, you know, because it was terrible. I mean, like, seriously, people make jokes about how repressive white America was in the 19th century. Like, Europeans would make fun of Americans. We were working like 60 to 80 hours in factories and talking about how good that was. You know, it was like, there was no sex going on outside of marriage. Women were locked down in the home. Men were locked down in jobs and the home. Like, no, it was not fun. And like, super religious, you know, very repressive culture. No pop culture yet. There was no pop culture yet. Like, so the only books people read was the Bible. Children were taught that toys were the devil's playthings. Like, you know, and so the slaves are like, they're on the plantation. Yes, they're slaves, of course.
Right.
But they're also having these parties where like the masters come and like set up like seats and chairs so they can come watch, because it's like the only fun they've ever seen. So,
and they don't talk about that side of history. They don't talk about that side of slavery.
Right. But I mean, it's like, your concern is like, okay, I get that value, but like now we're still fucking poor.
Right.
Because of that culture.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're dead right. And like, so I'm like a privileged white boy who's like spent my life being a wigga, like loving the Black culture and like enjoying it, like from the privilege of my white skin. Right. Like when I drive, I never even think about the cops pulling me over for, you know, unless my taillight's busted or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And here I am being like, no, don't assimilate, because I like your music.
Shake that ass, Black girl.
Come on, you Negroes. Show me how to dance.
This is so wrong.
I'm trying to get it. Yeah, I'm trying to get the rhythm, fellas. Can you don't assimilate? Don't be like, you know what I mean? Like, so I
Yeah,
get it. I get it. Like, if black people want to tell me to shut the fuck up and they that assimilation is the way to go, like Martin Luther King was saying to a word, like he was not having any black culture.
yeah,
None. Zero. He didn't like jazz. He didn't even like jazz. Okay.
yeah.
If black people want to go that route, I got nothing to say about it, right? Because every other group's done it. Every other group, including my people,
Yeah,
Jews, Irish,
yeah,
right? They did it. Okay. I'm not going to say I can't stop you because I get it. Like, I don't want to be black when the cops are around. I don't want to be black in all kinds of circumstances, right? I
yeah,
get it. But then again, if you value black culture, what we call the culture
yeah.
at all, that's gone. That's
But
gone.
what about the
And
ascension of consciousness, the
ah,
ascension to cosmic consciousness? And of course, I guess this comes back to being puritanical and closer to God and whatnot, right?
so I
And
think this is why I'm looking to you as the hope for all of us. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
oh Lord have
No, no,
mercy.
no. Let me be serious. I'm serious, actually. I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about your family, and your kids and all that, right? It's like,
Yeah,
maybe you're the first person I've come across where I was like, huh, I see a lot of both. I see a lot of like respectability politics, and I see a lot of like street culture, for lack of a better term, right?
yeah,
Like I see like a whole lot of both at the same
yeah.
time coming out of you, right?
Right.
And it's like, and you said your mom, like if I talked to her on the phone, I would assume it was a white woman, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. She puts her white voice.
Well,
Yeah.
so like if you were to do that yourself, if you were to code switch all the way, right, you would probably have a easier time in business, would you not?
I would.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So this is so, but yet but I love you for that. Like, but you're like, fuck no, I'm gonna still be black as hell, and I'm gonna make the business calls with exactly how I'm talking, and we're gonna go until that's it, and I'm just gonna keep going
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman, and it's the bag is out there, and I'm gonna keep pushing until I get the fucking bag, but I'm not gonna give up this part of my identity.
Mm.
So maybe I'm hoping. And hip hop stars kind of did pioneer this, right? In a lot of ways, right? They didn't
Sure.
give up their blackness for one bit,
Right.
and they definitely, some of them, the smart ones, definitely got the bag,
Right.
and they're doing just fine, and they're as black as anybody could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think like for ordinary people without billions of dollars in yachts whose names aren't Jay-Z, et cetera, like you could be, I don't know, like you could be, that's what you're doing, maybe. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I see that with all you guys, like Uncle Hotep too. Like I see like that's what's really cool about it, is like you that full embrace of like Black American culture. Like you're like underneath it almost, but at the same time you're like really critical of the bad shit in it
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I think is bad too. Like I don't think the violence is cool. Like I don't think it's cool to like brag about shooting people in song lyrics. I mean I get why they do, and I don't judge it. I would rather they not.
Right.
I mean, when I say it's not cool, I mean it's not cool that we live in a society in which that's happening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
judge I don't judge the 17-year-old from Compton for singing rapping about that, but
Right. Right. Right.
anyway. So like maybe I'm saying the Hoteps might be like there's some kind of like way you guys have like resolved this eternal contradiction, right?
Yeah.
In the Civil War that Chris Rock talked about.
Uh.
Well, I don't maybe you're the only ones I've ever seen to do that.
Yeah. It's funny you see that, because that's exactly what I try to do. I try to marry the worlds, right? Like,
Yeah, no, yeah.
you can be black and quote unquote professional, and what's black doesn't mean it's unprofessional, you know?
Right. Yeah, well, right. I mean, yeah, and you kind of see that like I mean, yeah, I've seen like black professional class people still not like fully assimilate, although pretty damn close. But I'm thinking about like the American Wakanda, otherwise known as Atlanta,
Mm.
um, which that's an amazing place to study. Like everybody should like be going down there and like Killer Mike talks about this all the time, like how it's like people don't understand like Atlanta is an amazing place because it's been like it's a black city, like, and has been like for decades, like in terms of like the size of the population and the power of the population, and like, you know, just the cops are black, you know, like, so it's
Yeah.
it's a fascinating thing. Killer Mike's dad was a cop.
Mm.
You know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he it's like in a lot of his songs, like that's that. It's funny because he'll rap about killing cops, but he'll say, but the reason he wants to kill the cops is because they dishonored the badge that his dad wore. So really interesting. Like he also, I'm saying, is a really interesting. He embodies this kind of like paradox that's going on, right? Because he's in hip hop and he's high all the goddamn time. I mean, like. He smells like a pound of weed at 9 a.m, like, you know, but he's rich and he's famous and he's successful and he's great and he's married and he's getting married. He's married. He's got, you know, he's really into his wife.
Yeah.
He's really into being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Mike's he's a Booker T. Washington. He's got the barbershop and he's like, he's an interesting, I mean, that I was thinking about you guys connecting. You should definitely talk at some point if it's possible.
I would love to.
He's a great dude.
Yeah.
He's a great dude.
I can tell from, you know, just consuming his content.
Yeah.
I'd love to pick his mind because I really don't understand my people. And I'm trying to understand them other than the fact that I've diagnosed them with a disability.
Mike will give you some lectures, man. He wants some Black history. Oh my God. Yeah. He won't stop. Yeah. We talked for like, I mean, we went for like 3 hours. We scratched the surface. Yeah, he's nice. But you guys, I'm saying your politics are there's definitely a lot of Hotep in him.
Oh yeah. We always say Killer Mike is like Hotep, you know. I think that's why when they did that panel with Diddy and Candace Owens, he was like, nah, she's right. And I think it takes a quote unquote Hotep to be able to sit in front of an all black crowd in Atlanta and take up for Candace Owens, right?
Yeah.
But only Killer Mike could get away with that. Right?
True. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was so necessary because Candace Owens, you might not like some of her rhetoric, but a lot of this shit is accurate as fuck.
Of course.
You know, a lot of it's accurate diagnosis and assessments and so on and so forth. Her delivery might be a little weird or whatever, but you know,
well, she works for the Republicans. That's the problem. But
there you go.
but what she has to say about the left, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's all accurate, and I love that Killer Mike stood up for her and said, "Hey, you know, she's right. Y'all need to listen." You know, and I think only Killer Mike could get away with that stuff. So I'd love to have a conversation with him just to kind of understand the black left because I think he's like on that fence, right? Like he gets to see the Hotep side and he gets to see the black left.
I know, but I want to see you guys go at it over like socialism and social democracy and Bernie and because he's into that too.
Is he a socialist?
He's the main Bernie dude in pop culture. He was like the biggest celebrity. He was pro Bernie.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, yo, we not fucking with Bernie, Mike.
Well, I know, but I would love to see that. I would love to see you guys argue about that stuff. That would be fascinating.
I would love to. That would be very, very, very respectful conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And but so like the two of you kind of like, and the fact that you're half Jamaican and half ADOS, whatever, fuck a stupid term, whatever. But like you embody that paradox there too, right? Or contradiction, whatever that is. Like it's not a contradiction because it's all, as I said, it's like that culture, what's called the culture, has got all of it at the same time. That's why like I hate so racists caricaturize it as just the bad stuff. But then what liberals have done, of course, is caricaturize it, make it into a caricature of just the good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So like all black people have all been like Martin Luther King, basically. Like, come on now, sanitize.
Why can't you be like, what did Martin Luther King say?
And you know what? Here's the thing. And talking about white supremacy, like, what the fuck is more white supremacist than to say, oh yeah, they've always been like us. Yeah. Right? No. Yeah. No. There's a distinctive culture and there always has been, right? You don't have to like it, but there is one, So anyway.
Um, let's talk communism because
Yeah,
you were
I'm
raised
I'm
as a
against
commie,
it.
but you were raised as a commie, right?
Yeah.
So your parents were born into communism in Europe, or
No, I was. I mean, not in Europe, but I was born into communism. My parents were not no, they were not born into political. They weren't political until they went to college.
well, there you go.
Again, what I
There it is.
what I've been saying right to you and many others, like all this shit comes out of college. Like it just all of it. So
Yeah.
socialism is like a rich man's game. Like it's a rich college educated elite man's game. Always has, especially in this country, like 100%.
Mm.
There's no fucking like truck drivers who are socialists unless some socialist got to him, like my stepfather. That's what he was doing. He was a truck driver. He got a job as a truck driver so that he could convince the truck drivers to become socialist, to have a revolution. But he was like he was upper class dude. His dad worked for the State Department. Speaking of the CIA, probably for the CIA too. He was like a diplomat in Moscow and he was like from that world. He went to boarding schools in Northeast. You know what I mean? He went to the University of Chicago and he drops out of all that.
Mm.
This is how fucking crazy these people were.
Mm.
I'm not talking about just my parents. I'm talking about the left and the hardcore socialists. I will say this. I mean, they definitely lived according to their principles, right?
Right.
It could have been rich. They could have been having like very cushy jobs, but instead they drop out of that shit and my stepfather got a job as a steel worker in a factory and then a truck driver for Safeway. That's crazy. He went to Exeter Academy, which is like the most elite boarding school in the country. And then he went to the University of Chicago, which is one of the top schools, right? He was like on a track to be anything he wanted to be. He's a fucking steel worker to convince the workers around him that to have a communist revolution.
Oh my God.
That's some psycho shit, right? That is like deep,
That's
deep,
like
deep.
that's like Jehovah's Witness type shit.
Yeah, it's a church. It's
Yeah.
absolutely a church. I was born
Actually,
into a church.
stop right there. I made a mistake.
Okay.
We're gonna
All right.
hold off on that. I want to do some super chats because they asked some questions, and then we're gonna continue on into communism because this is a great conversation I need to have with you. Um, and I'm gonna read all of them, and then we'll have you answer the question. So shout out to Joe Big Low. He said Kanye Ben told you. Chad Lemoyne, what up, Chad? Said hard to look past the imagery in that WAP video. Fits exactly the desired themes of the people who run that industry. Cardi B hair and a slave chain. Uh-oh.
Oh, it's all right.
Ken Thoreau, Renegade History connected a lot of dots for me in 2016 while I was transitioning out of a socialist mindset. Hotep and Bill. Shout out
Wow.
to Ken.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Daniel Hawk, Scottish and Irish culture mixed with black culture on the plantation when they were all together. Indeed, indeed. John
Yeah.
Lemley
Yes, sir.
says, good evening. Thank you, John. What up, Lemley? John Wayne asks, he says, how does your guest feel about using the N word?
Ooh. Didn't I once?
Yeah, you did in the beginning.
Damn, I tested you that early, huh?
Like
Well,
the
wait,
first 5 minutes.
they should be asking you. How did you feel about that?
How did I feel about it? I don't know. I don't feel shit. So it's like I didn't take it as like malicious. I just took it as like historical reference in the way you were using it, right? Like you were using
Of
it
course.
as a historical reference. So it wasn't like
Of
you were
course.
saying like nigga, shut up, or you my
Right.
nigga, right? It wasn't like
Right.
that. So but I think it definitely crossed my mind like some black people ain't gonna like that. He just said nigga. You know what I mean? Like you're not allowed to have any context with it, which I don't really agree with.
If you didn't know me and it was like in the first like minute of our conversation, it would have been an entirely different story, probably, right? Well, maybe not an entirely different story, but it would have been a different
Mm,
story.
Nah, not with me. Not with
Yeah,
me.
maybe
Nah,
not. Okay, maybe not you. Yeah,
I mean, you know me. I'm super educated, so I don't look at
see,
things
let
like
me.
that.
All right, let me talk about that word.
Okay.
Look, God damn it, it's the most important word in American history, whether
Uh,
you like it or not. It's just a truth. That's just a fact. I mean, right? Like the whole damn society was organized around that word. Basically, you
mm,
either are that or you aren't. Okay, that was like the foundation of the fucking country. okay, called slavery, based around that fucking, basically that word. You know what I mean? Like what it represents.
Mm-hmm.
Did it go away after slavery as in being important? No, fuck no. And does it? I mean, not only did it separate, the good Americans from the bad Americans after that, but even among the bad Americans, it was used to separate what we've been calling the black political class from everybody else, who they called what? What Chris Rock called them. Okay. And what I've heard you guys call them, right?
What?
So you use the N-word to like the way Chris
Oh,
Rock
oh,
did.
oh, oh, yeah.
Like in a derogatory, sort of a derogatory. I mean, derogatory when you're critical of like what black people are doing today, whatever, But my point is, it's the most important word in American history. I think a lot of people will like be sympathetic to me when I say that, right? Like that seems pretty like a pretty solid thing to say, right? Like because it's unique for us. It's our own. It's the only place where it's used. Like we invented it, we used it. It's become like ubiquitous. Everybody, But as I said, more importantly, like the basic social structure of the country was built around everything that it represented. So like W.E.B. Du Bois like argued that this was deep in a way that like undergirded everything. And he's right. A white person, a poor white person, he said, doesn't have shit in this country except one thing, which is actually valuable. He's not a nigger. He'll always have that. He'll always have that. He may not have a job. He may not have a wife. He may not have any money in the bank, but he'll never be a nigger.
That's
and
true.
You know what? And W.E.B. Du Bois said he called that the wages of whiteness. That's what we all get. Like it's a wage we get for as white people in this society, instead of actual money. So we're getting played too. See, we're getting played.
Yes.
White people are getting played.
Yes.
Dumb motherfuckers, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here I am, homeless, miserable life, but I'm not one of them niggers. Like, what the? Okay, yeah. Congratulations. Like what?
Like that allows you to sleep well at night.
Oh, and by the way, they're having more fun than you too. Like with less money. Like what the? Yeah, what is this about? Right?
Yeah.
With no funny with no money, like they invented American entertainment.
Right.
Pretty much, and Jews later, but mostly blacks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the basis of American entertainment, like across the board.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal. Like it's the number one American export to the world. People will be like, that's the other thing that pisses me off. It's like, oh well, black people get credit for like pop culture. I'm like, you mean like the industry that's bigger than the automobile industry? Really? Seriously, you're going to denigrate that as somehow unimportant? Really? Oh, why don't you go talk to like the millions and millions and millions of girls in like Indonesia and the Philippines and Burma and fucking Saudi Arabia who love Beyonce so much they said to their Islamic parents, "Go fuck yourselves." And I'm going to dress and act the way I want to because of that black woman from America. And you know where that's going on? You know where that's going on most right now?
Where?
That's so much that it's a crisis that the cops have given up policing this. Tehran in Iran. Women in the streets, Beyonce's fucking huge there. Black culture is huge as fuck. Women in the streets are like, they're like cursing out the Islamic police.
Yeah.
Cursing them out.
Yeah. I've seen that.
And a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of that is influenced by American culture, and a lot of that American culture was black culture. Hell yeah.
Them women are so lost.
No, man, but I'm saying like that good slave culture.
Yeah, I get it.
Is liberating the whole world.
I get it, but they got to be burned at the stake. It's the witches. How dare you? How dare you take Beyonce over your parents and your culture? Your culture is the reason why you guys are even mildly successful.
See, no, why? Really? Wait, what? Wait, you're defending like Islam against Beyonce?
Yes.
Wow, that's an unexpected turn.
Yes.
Damn, man. I don't even
Absolutely.
because let's see. So wait, that means that like there's something. Okay, so what's primary for you? Like tribal loyalty or what? Or family loyalty?
I,
Family loyalty.
I would say family.
Family.
We start at the individual and then
Yeah,
family,
yeah,
right? But
family.
it's
Okay,
like
okay, that makes sense.
protect women, right? And women shouldn't be objects of sexuality.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
logical. Yeah,
Yeah, and then you have, these men have said, you can't drive and you can't
yeah,
walk anywhere without a man, and then you have Western culture complaining about rape culture, and this is like, well, if you let us drive and let us walk you in the street, you wouldn't have had no problems. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
And then they keep their women covered up. They show when they care.
I
Then you
know,
want to take it off and you want to show your ass.
I
What you
know.
gonna get is you gonna get the white man's culture,
Uh huh.
and your ass gonna be poor in the streets under communism.
I know. See, I love this. I love this. It's like because it's so hilarious. Like there's another thing that like white liberals love to, and black liberals too, love to pretend, right? That black people agree with us on all the cultural stuff.
Uh-uh.
Bah!
No way.
Are you crazy? Like you want to talk about patriarchy? Oh my goodness. I mean, come on. I mean, so it's great to be able to actually talk about whether patriarchy is a good thing.
Mm.
Even
Mm.
though I think I disagree with you. Like it's a great conversation to have.
Yes.
I'm fascinated right now. I'm like, my mind's working. I'm like, God damn, maybe he's got a point or five. Right? Because I know
Yeah.
actually I know you do. Like I'm already kind of sympathetic to it and something. And that's what everything. No, but like in the academy, hell no. Like no. We all agree on that. Like patriarch, everybody, black people would never say such a thing as that. The fuck out of here. Like,
Yeah.
but that's what goes on. They don't. So there's no discussion of like primary questions like that. That's
Mm.
a primary civilizational question.
Mm.
Should we organize society around a patriarchy or a matriarch or whatever it is?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first question. And we don't ever talk about it.
Mm.
I'm not saying what side I'm pretty sure I'm not on the side of the patriarchy, but like, can we not talk about it?
Mm.
We should talk about slavery, goddammit.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about whether slavery is a good thing. Why
Mm.
not? Let's talk about, even though I think it's superstitious bullshit hoax of the highest order, let's talk about whether race is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm an anti-race realist to my bone, and we've talked about that, but I say bring those people to the college campuses. Let's have it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bring the receipts, bring the research, Charles Murray, bring Charles Murray, bring Charles Murray and his whole army. Give Charles Murray money to bring an army to make the best possible argument to convince me that I've been wrong about race my entire fucking life.
Mm.
Let's do it. Instead, no. What do? We don't let him speak, and we pretend that all of us, especially black people, which is so fucking insulting because it's not only flatly wrong, it just treats them like kids, whatever. But like, oh no, they used to. Oh yeah, they like. So you represent black people on these college campuses, do you? But you don't allow like the dominant positions of black Americans to be voiced on these questions.
Mm-hmm.
Are you out your fucking gay marriage? You want to go there for half a second?
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't. You lying fucking weasels. Like, bring some real black people. Like, bring like not real. I'm sorry. Just bring 10 of them, and 6 or 7 will tell you that they're opposed to gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
That's the numbers. It's something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so anyway,
interracial too.
I don't. Yeah, there's got to be more super chats, I'm sure.
Let me see. Eli, he said, Russell, are Latinos replacing the black community? Of course they are. Chad Lemoyne, Hegelian dialectic. We're all wage and debt slaves, but if we hate each other, maybe we won't notice it. The racial divide is thesis and antithesis.
What was that last one?
He said, Hegelian dialectic, we're all wage and debt slaves, but if we hate each other, maybe we won't notice it. The racial divide is thesis and antithesis.
Oh, yeah. That's like an old, and this is not a put down at all. That's an old Marxist argument about like why there's racism in the United States, right? Is that the capitalists have deliberately like stoked it to divide the working class so that the working class could never unify and have the socialist revolution that my parents wanted. It's bullshit, basically. But there is one really important piece there, which is super important, actually. One of the reasons that so many white people hate black people historically in this country is because black people were used, especially in the mid 20th century, as strikebreakers.
Yes.
Now I shouldn't actually. That's a bad way to put that. That's actually a paternalistic way to put that. They weren't used as strike breakers. There were job openings that they took. Right? Because I was trained by commies to think that all strike breaking is bad. So we talk about it. If it's black people, well, they had to be like manipulated into doing it because it was such a bad thing. And black people are saints.
Right.
First of all, I think there's nothing wrong with taking a fucking job from somebody who went on strike. I don't care what color you are. But especially if you're a black man in Georgia in 1934 and there's a steel mill and it was all white, it was segregated, it was all white, and the white men walked off the job and you said, I'll take the job. Thank you. And the wage that's like 3 times what I was making picking cotton. How the fuck are we supposed? So ask a communist how to deal with that history. Ask a liberal. What do you guys say about that history? That's the history. So a lot of black men and women broke strikes, took these jobs, right? And so, and guess what happened? They got like shot sometimes by like labor leaders. Labor leaders, not Ku Klux Klan. Labor leaders. You know who else did this? Cesar Chavez. Everybody loves Cesar Chavez. He was the great hero of Mexican Americans, wasn't he? You know what Cesar Chavez did? He invented the word wetback, and he had his union patrol the border with Mexico to keep illegal immigrants out of the United States. Why? Because they were competing with his members, his union members who were farm workers. He wanted to keep the wages up. You bring in the Mexican workers, the wages get depressed. Cesar Chavez called them illegal immigrants on television and said they should be deported. Cesar Chavez called them wetbacks because they had just swam over the river to get here. Labor in this country, he was a labor leader. The labor movement in this country has been as racist. I think only Southern governments are more racist as institutions historically. Southern governments, Jim Crow. Like other than that, you have unions, massive unions that control. This is like a third of the economy. To get a job, you had to become a member. You had to become a carpenters union member or an auto workers union member.
Right.
They simply didn't let black people be members. Like the unions were the ones who were the gatekeepers.
Right.
Not the employers, because employers don't give a fuck. They don't care. Like if you can do the job, that's fine. They don't work next to you. So there's the incredibly racist, and I'm talking real racist shit, like keeping people out of jobs, right? To the point where there were race riots in Detroit during the World War II between white and black workers over this very question. Because black people were coming up from the South. They had been sharecroppers. Their parents had been slaves. And a lot of these white guys were leaving for the war or whatever. So there were job openings. So black dudes were like, hell yeah, thank you very much for tripling my wage. And I live in the city now. And the white people were like, nope. N-word, get the fuck out of here. And there was shooting and fights in the street and killing and fighting both ways, though. That was the thing. Whites and blacks both lost their lives. Black people were not victims. They were not victims. They shot back. That should be the title of your movie. They shot back.
They shot back.
Well, that's Killer Mike. That's when I talked about it. We talked about the history of armed black violence. Sorry, armed self-defense, black armed self-defense. In every one of these big riots, like these famous race riots, like in Tulsa, and in Detroit in the 40s, there was white people got killed too. Like it wasn't just like mass lynching in the street. It was a fight. It was a mass fight in the street.
Yeah, a lot of people like to act like We just got our ass whooped all the time.
The victim thing is like, that was slaves. That was invented for slaves, that identity, by abolitionists. And then it was reinvented during the civil rights movement. John Lewis actually was probably the most important person there, because he became like the symbol of the martyr, right? He was the one who got beaten the worst on the bridge, right? That's what he was famous for. More than anything he ever said or thought was that he got beaten up. Which I love. That's your thing. Like, that's your identity.
You got your ass whooped.
Getting your ass whooped is like, that's what you want to hang on. That's who you're going to be. That's who we should be known as. The people who got our asses whooped by like. That's a great insight that you made. I love that. I never thought about that before.
The publicity stunt was the Montgomery bus boycotts, or was that summer?
It was all staged. I mean, everything was like, and I don't mean that like in a bad way. It's just like, you know, King would plan to do like these organized demonstrations. The bus boycott was in 1955. That was absolutely, that's a great story. Okay. So the bus boycott was, and this goes a lot to what we've been talking about. The famous Montgomery bus boycott, Rosa Parks, right? So the local NAACP gets the idea to do this, they want to find a woman to like serve as like the catalyst for this movement, to refuse to sit in the back, and then she'd get arrested, and then they would mobilize this boycott to like desegregate the buses.
Right.
Cool. Great. So they started looking for they started looking for a black woman to do this. It was totally staged. It was a total setup, but that's fine. I mean, it was for great purpose, right?
Right.
So they find this one woman, and I forget her name, and they have her do it. And she is, I forget, she's either pregnant.
She had a baby out of
fought with the bus. Well, there's Claudette Colvin, who's second. But anyway, she like fights with the bus driver. She spits on them, and she's like fighting the cops, and she's like, you know, not behaving respectably. So they're like, nope, can't use her. Then they find Claudette Colvin, who does the same thing. She sits in the front of the bus. They arrest her. Then it turns out she's pregnant. Right. She's a teenager. I think I'm remembering this right. And her dad was like, they found her dad like doing something bad. He was, I don't know. But so she wasn't good either. She was not respectable. So they dumped her. They were like, nope, can't do the boycott around her either. They were like, Rosa Parks, man. Rosa Parks was like, they called her, what did they call her? Like Mrs. America. She was so perfect. She was like Christian. She went to church every day. She was like a lifelong member of the NAACP. She was educated, articulate, spoke the King's English, like, you know, perfect, and just played the martyr role, right? Which isn't quite a victim. It's Jesus. It's the Jesus role, right? It's like, I suffer for you, and then we will be delivered, you know. But that's that story. So she had to be the perfect American. See, this is the beginning of this fucked up, twisted dynamic, right? Beginning in 1955 with the monk, it's like, well, here's the deal, guys. You get to have civil rights, and, you know, maybe the cops won't hit you as much, but you've got to be like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. You got to be perfect. And you know who won who was the first black winner of an Oscar, of a best actor Oscar in the?
I want to say it was the Mammy.
The fellow West Indian. Oh, maybe you're right. Sorry, first man. Fellow West Indian.
First man. Yeah, that's gonna slip my mind.
His fellow West Indian, Sidney Poitier.
Oh yes.
So you need to watch his movies from the 1950s.
Oh, I have. Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah,
those movies say everything about what we're talking about. So he becomes a big star. He's in all these big Hollywood movies, and every single time he plays the same character, which is this. He speaks like he studied at Oxford University. He has a white friend, and his white friend drinks too much. And his white friend likes women too much. His white friend might get into trouble with the law too. Sidney doesn't have any of those problems. Sidney doesn't drink. Sidney doesn't even have any sexuality. much less for white women.
Right.
Sydney, I mean, whatever the character's name is, he saves his white friend every time. He helps him out because Sydney doesn't care about himself. He's selfless, just like Jesus was. And he saves the white guy every time. And these were like big movies, and he won an Oscar for one of them.
This is how we want the Negroes to act.
Yeah, and so you've got Sidney Poitier at the exact same time as Martin Luther King with his business suit, right, and his nice family and his Christian values and all that, right, and telling black people, stop drinking, stop having sex, start using soap. That was one of his big things. He was talking about how black people are dirty. He said we got to act like the white man more, right? And then Rosa Parks is like the perfect American, right? And guess who else has been? Barack Obama. Like, can you be more perfect than Barack Obama? You can't. No. That dude's like nailed it. Like no white person has been as perfect as Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
That's an impossible thing. They like invented these personas that are like impossible to actually uphold. How do we know that? Because Martin Luther King fucked everything he could touch.
That's facts. That's
right.
fact.
Which is not to say that, he's a bad man. It's to say it's impossible to do that if you're a human being, right? Yeah. To uphold those values like that. So.
And I get that, criticism a lot from the black community. Say, oh, we don't listen to the Hoteps because they're delivery. I'm like, the fuck you want me to sound like? It's like you have to sound like you said, like Oxford University, and then they'll accept you. And it's just like, yo, like, so you want me to sound like a white person, but you're claiming about white supremacy. Like, you're upholding white supremacy when you tell me you don't. And I'm speaking to you just like we would speak on the street. It's just that you don't want to be spoken to like you are on the street when it comes to white topics. Now I got to speak like a white man to you when we talk about these topics, but I can't have the same vernacular and the same energy. And it's just,
I know. It's another reason I don't really want to be black. God damn, that's exhausting. Like code switching, being bilingual. I don't know. Like that's too much work, man. Chappelle was right. Like it's every black person's got to be bilingual, unless you don't ever want to leave the hood and then and always be poor. But like, if you want to like make any money, you've got to learn to speak. And God damn, I'm tired just thinking about it. And it depends on what room you're in.
Right.
It switches from minute to minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
All right, so let's get back to communism, right? So your parents, your dad's going around and he's playing pariah with socialism, right? And then you accept this because I guess that's your parent. You are how you're raised, right?
Church.
Right. So describe that ideology to me at that time, what it meant to be a socialist and what your ideals are for life and like what that means for teaching your kids, right? Like the future of your family and then the future of the nation or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great question right now. I was just thinking about this in a new way. I was just thinking about this. You know what it was for me? This is sad as shit. It's a good thing I went through therapy and I'm over it. But like, here's how it worked. Okay. It's obviously fucking weird to like be a revolutionary socialist in the at any time, but especially in the United States in 1960, whatever, 1970, whatever. Right. So my parents, and this was my mother, my stepfather, and my father, all were in the same group. Okay. Just my mother and my stepfather were the ones who industrialized, it was called. They got these jobs in factories and shit to organize the working class, like the super crazy shit, the cult-like behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was, but that was everybody around me. Like that was all their friends were their comrades. They called them comrades. They would play poker every week. They had a poker game, but like they all called each other comrades. And I didn't know what they were talking about. So like for me, it was all like, those old Charlie Brown cartoons where the adults are like, rah, 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 like that's all it was. I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. It was all Marxism over my head. Right.
Yeah.
But all I knew was like, I had to be that.
Right.
like if you're born into a church. So the thing was, my point I was getting at though is my parents were very absorbed in this like fantasy world of communism, which is what it is. If you're in the United States, because there's no communism, it's all like theoretical.
Okay.
Right. So they're like they're fucking terrible parents. Like, I mean, they were just like super negligent, like didn't just, yeah, I was like we weren't on welfare, but we were close. Well, actually we did live in public housing for a couple of years, but like close, but it was like, but there was like that kind of life. Like they just let me, I roamed the streets like on my own.
What's up with that? Like even like Trotsky, like pretty much like abandoned his children. Like what's up with socialists and like
Because they're intellectuals, man, just like you and me. That's why we got to watch ourselves. I'm serious. Like we get wrapped up in here. Anybody, every intellectual I've ever known has this problem. You know, you get wrapped up in here. So you fucking, my mother literally would like not see me right next to her sometimes because she'd be like reading something and be thinking about it so hard. Right. And I find myself doing that. My son will be like trying to get my attention. I'm sure you've had this happen. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they just fucking sucked. Is like they were terrible parents and like really negligent and just checked out and like thinking about the revolution and whatever the fuck nonsense.
I see what you're saying.
Right. And so then so it's like the idea is, well, you still gotta like, so I gotta like enter the priesthood, I guess, to like prove myself. So I gotta learn what socialism is, right? And I finally do that. I go to college and I was like, that's my mission. And I read Marx and I read the history of socialism and I know all that stuff now. Like ask me anything about the history of the left, I can tell you about it. And then I come back and then like my parents are like, yeah, we're not political anymore. I'm like, what? I just went off and like taught myself how to be a socialist. I'm a priest now, Mom. Like I got anointed and now yeah, they just watch MSNBC, but they're not into it. But that's how like twisted that is. It was like, and the thing was like socialism then in my mind became a replacement for the family I didn't have. Like my family is a divorce too, by the way. So I forgot that part. So they divorced when I was 5. Okay. So my family was like fractured, fucked up, and negligent. So I just basically had just like this fucked up. So like socialism, the fantasy for me when I thought about it wasn't like a Soviet factory where everybody's making like, you know, widgets, which is what it actually is. It was just like, everybody's like kumbaya, man. And like all the races of the world and all the people will be together and like harmony and community. And like, we'll all get along and we'll, I guess, cooperate. I didn't even think that far about like how things would get produced. But like, to me, it was like one big happy family that I wanted so badly.
Right.
So right. My mother's negligent. So like I need a family, and her like religion, which is socialism, kind of serves as that substitute. So I chased that into my 30s. My 30s, I was chasing that. And then finally I was hanging out with socialists. And I was like, these people are terrible. Terrible. Like there's got to be something wrong with their ideas because they're terrible people.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest. So that's what it was. That's what it meant to be born in that church.
What do you think makes socialism so persuasive and pervasive at the same time? Like what gives it that appeal?
Well,
Nietzsche about this.
It goes back to Nietzsche.
Okay.
I think a lot of people made this argument, not just me. Nietzsche made this great argument about this thing he called ressentiment. It looks like resentment. It's almost like resentment. It's really close to resentment, which is, it's basically like it's the hatred of the superior, essentially. So it is very much like envy and resentment in the combination, right? And you want to take them down. And I think that's been the animating impulse in the left since the left began. Well, when did the left begin? The French Revolution. We all say that. We all agree with that. 1789, French Revolution. The parliament literally physically gets separated between the left, the Jacobins, the revolutionaries, and the right, the conservatives, the traditionalists, the church, and the monarchy. Okay. Right? That's how it starts then, right? Yeah. What was the left wing of the French Revolution all about? It was about killing motherfuckers as fast as possible, right? Like
Mm,
they invented the guillotine and they lined up the rich and they chopped off their heads as fast as they could.
mm,
And the streets literally ran with the blood of the rich.
mm, mm,
No one disputes that history. That's
mm.
standard French Revolution history. That's what it was.
Right.
It was a massacre. I mean, it was many things, but one of the things was a massacre of the rich.
So
That's what the whole.
who's organizing this?
This is the Jacobin Revolution. This is French revolutionaries. This is the people who established the French Republic.
They've
And
had to had some sort of capital and power.
they overthrew the monarchy and the church.
Oh
And
yeah,
they,
that's true. Yeah, they were overthrowing
and
all the
then and then
monarchies.
out of that, you have the reign of terror, right? So they're killing the clergy, they're killing the monarchs, they're killing the rich, they're killing the aristocrats, and chaos ensues. And guess what happens? Guess what arises out of chaos and revolutionary bullshit like that? A dictator named Napoleon,
Mm,
right? And then Napoleon takes the worst of the French Revolution, like this universalizing imperialist shit,
yeah.
and takes it all the way from Russia to Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
And makes
Right.
everybody from Russia to Haiti abide by the Napoleonic Code,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Mm,
to this day, Napoleon's ass is still in Haiti, basically, because the law of Haiti is still, he wrote it, like the basis of it,
mm, mm,
Um, so anyway, but the left, back to the left, and violence and like resentment and hatred of the rich and wanted to fucking not. My mother talks about killing the rich, always has. Like I've heard,
mm,
like it's a thing. Like they laugh about it. It's funny to
mm.
them. Like
So yeah, so in my book,
it's
Dominate Twitter,
wild.
I talk about the use of that enemy, right, to mobilize people, and I think that's been a key factor for many regimes is to you have to have an enemy, and as long as you can focus your people around this enemy, and that enemy exists and seems attainable, like the goal has to seem obtainable,
Mm-hmm.
then you can hold power, right? So that makes a whole lot of sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the other thing that makes Marxists successful is who they target, right, to fill their ranks, and they're targeting, disabled people, basically the undesirables, right, the peoples on the outskirts of society, the minorities, right, and these are the
Mm-hmm.
people that are usually ignored by the greater society. You agree with that, or
Which
is that,
part about
well,
the
that's what I
target? What
see
about the
today.
targeting?
Well, that's what I see today, right? Today it's like, let's target transgender people, let's target black people, let's
Mm.
target anybody who's been marginalized, right? Is basically we're going to give them a voice and we're going to put them in the front. Whereas, on the right, we're like, nah, like we're not dealing with identity politics at
Oh,
that
okay.
level,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It has Marxism always targeted people like that, or is this a new phenomenon?
Another great question. Yeah. So the history of that, I'm just thinking back. Yes, the history of that is with the Communist Party, which was the one that was aligned with the Soviet Union. Like this was the big one, the serious. They had like they had like a 500,000 members at one point in the 1930s. It was a serious thing at one point.
Mm,
And they like took orders directly from Joe Stalin in the Soviet Union. That's what that meant,
mhm,
no joke. So they they in the 1930s it was a very deliberate policy that Moscow dictated to them, and this is not controversial. Okay, that they go after blacks. They try to recruit blacks,
mm,
get as many black members as possible because they, for good reason, were like they're more likely to be pissed off at America, right, and more likely to
mm,
be revolutionaries. So that's why the Communist Party became very active in the civil rights movement. That's why Martin
mm,
Luther King's advisor, what it was you, right? Was a fucking communist, or maybe it was
mm.
Curtis Yarvin, was both of
I've
you,
said it.
whatever.
Yeah, I've said it before.
Yeah, like yeah, Stanley Levinson. He was absolutely had been a member of the Communist Party. It's totally true. Like, and he wrote like a lot of King's speeches and all that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was all cynical. Like, and Paul Robeson, the poor man, like it's so God heartrending. Although it was his choice. I mean, but he's buried, God damn it, in Red Square. Like what?
Mm,
He chose it. He
mm,
chose to be buried in Red Square next to Lenin. I mean, it's
mm,
so sad. And he was used. I mean, he was just used as like as a prop, as a token. He defended the Soviet Union. He defended Stalin. He defended the Gulag. He said the Gulag didn't exist. He said that communism was a great thing, of course, for black people. Like that was his whole, like, and so that's why they were all involved in the civil rights movement. That's like that's a conspiracy that's 100% true.
Mm-hmm. And then that leaks over into like the Black Panther Party.
No, the Panthers are always separate. See, that's the thing. They're more of a nationalist. Well, sorry, you're right. I mean, so that they're, what they are? They're actually gangsters at the beginning.
Okay.
They pick up politics when they figure that that's how they can get over. It's right where I'm sitting in Oakland, like that. So they actually were from Berkeley and Oakland.
Okay.
And so they were around a lot of educated white people like my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, the way to get money from these white people is to read Mao's Red Book and to read Das Kapital and to, talk that language. And then we'll go down to University of California, Berkeley, where all the socialists were, like my parents.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll give us money to buy guns with so that we can go patrol Oakland.
Wow. Okay.
So that's exactly what Bobby Seale and Huey Newton did. They sold copies of Mao's Little Red Book on the campus of UC Berkeley.
Okay.
Took that money, bought rifles, and then patrolled the streets of Oakland. And then every time they saw a cop pulling over a black person, they would just walk. The story. They would walk up and just be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then Ronald Reagan tried to pass the first gun control law in the country in response to that, and was successful.
Right. Right.
So that's gun control is racist history. We can talk about that too. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So were they accepting the communism, or were they just cloaked in communism?
The Panthers?
Yeah.
Those guys were so crazy, man. Like it's Huey Newton, Eldridge Cleaver. So Eldridge Cleaver ended up living a block from my parents, and he converted to Mormonism, and he became like an ultra nationalist American. He had a huge American flag on his front porch.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And Huey Newton was a crackhead at the end of his life, and he was murdered. Yeah, he was murdered like on the fucking streets of West Oakland, like, which is the worst part of Oakland, and over some fucking crack deal. And Bobby Seale, when he was in Congress, he was like the only one who had any like brains left. I mean, but they were a pretty crazy organization. I mean. There were actual a whole lot of criminals in the Panthers, right? I mean, that was the problem. There were some really good people like Fred Hampton, and like the school lunch program, the school breakfast program was fantastic. Like fantastic. The communities like serving children food instead of the government. Damn. BLM, listen. Hello, ding dong, fucking there you go. Do that shit. Do that, DeRay. Do that, Sean King, and we'll stop calling you Talcum X, maybe. Right? Like that's what they should be talking about. So that's what the Panthers are about. Those two things were badass, man. Like patrolling the streets with guns to confront the cops, and serving food to poor children.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, right? That's the best of black nationalism. That's the best of black. That's that inspires the white left in all kinds of ways, right? That like Murray Rothbard, that's when he started to want to fuck with black nationalists, right? Because he was like, oh shit, that these people know what to do. They're the only people in this country with any sense, like it seemed like at that point, right?
Wow.
But you think about those two programs together, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just for black people, dumbasses. That's just the Panthers just gave you an offering for everyone, because we all get shot by the cops, and we all need to feed our children, and the government shouldn't have any business in that.
Right.
And the black crazy ass Panthers, as crazy as they were, they did that. Eldridge Cleaver wrote a book about raping white women. Like, I mean, they were crazy, but the mafia, as I said before, the mafia was real bad and real good.
Yeah.
Black slave culture was really good and really bad.
Right.
Same shit. The Panthers are really bad, and I mean they were like the New Haven, Connecticut Panthers. They what did they do? They tortured a dude to death. I think using like acid. They were bad people. Very
Yeah.
bad. I mean, a member, they tortured a member to death because
Mm,
they thought he was a turncoat, a
mm,
snitch.
mm.
So it
Gangsters, they
it
was
was a
gangster for
mix.
real. They was gangster for real.
Yeah, it was a mix.
Um, all right, so we got communism coming out of the French Revolution. We saying that is fact?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, the left, that's the lineage. They weren't communist, quite, although a lot of it was real communist. I mean, a
Mm,
lot of the French Revolution did have like very egalitarian economic policies, but like, yes, the idea of universal equality
mm,
of people that's forced upon them,
mm-hmm,
like was forced upon me and all the
mm-hmm,
kids in Berkeley when we were bused, right? That's Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the French philosopher, who was the main inspiration for the Jacobins and the French revolutionaries. This is the crucial point, right? He said everyone should be equal and everyone should be made to be equal.
mm,
That means there should be no private property.
mm,
That means that everyone will be the same level in every way, legally and economically and culturally.
mm-hmm,
There will be no cultural distinctions among groups at all.
mm-hmm,
Everyone will be here's another, back to our theme here. Everyone will be homogenized into one single culture.
mm,
So the French, still to this day, right? I was in Paris 2 years ago. If you go to Paris, it's like, by the way, it's a black fucking city. It's amazing how many black, like West Africans live there now. It's like when you go into Paris, it's like a totally different city than when I was there in the 1980s. It's
mm,
like black and Arab as fuck.
mm,
But they all speak, I believe, very perfect, proper French
mm-hmm,
because that's been always part of the lineage, right? This sort of like, here's the thing: universal equality has always meant universal sameness.
mm-hmm. That's what equal means.
That when I heard that shit, I heard that enunciated by a guy named Vine Deloria, who was a Native American activist and author.
Mm-hmm,
He said, "I never wanted." He said, "What do you say?" I said, "Whenever the white man offered equality, I said hell no because I knew that meant sameness. Equality
mm,
meant being the same as a white man, and I didn't want that."
yeah,
And when I heard that, I was like, "Oh my God, of course, right?
yeah,
Jesus Christ,
yeah.
yes."
Uh, so,
You look at the Indian, real quick. You look at the Indian reform
mm-hmm,
schools of the 19th century, right? They took all the tribes that survived and they stuck all their children. They took all their children and put them in these white men, the government schools.
mm,
And I have pictures I could show you of, they would take pictures of all the classes of the children, like hundreds and hundreds of Indian children, all wearing uniforms,
mm, mm,
like military uniforms, right?
yeah,
Made them all the same, hive mind, same shit. We've been talking about this whole conversation, right?
yeah, yeah.
So that they could be controlled.
Mm, mm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I have a hard time believing this revolution in France is organic. I want to say that there's a hidden hand who, first of all, you have to have a lot of intellectual power to pull off something to overthrow a monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
You need a lot of intellectual power, whether it's formal or informal. You need a lot of intellectual power to pull something off like that. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
was about like overthrowing um, the monarchs to so somebody else can come into power and replace the monarch with a new type of monarchy and just a new label, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yes. You want to know amazing thing about that?
what?
You're always more right than you know. It's incredible. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau's book, The Social Contract, which is the birth of all of this shit,
Okay.
that was the inspiration for the French Revolution, and that to this day, every leftist studies the social contract and loves it.
Mm.
When you read the social contract, you're going to be like, this is totalitarian, Orwellian. Not, you will be amazed that anyone thinks otherwise.
Uh,
But anyway, so I said to you, it preaches universal equality, right, in all these
right.
ways. But then it's incredible. At the end of the book, he's like, well, actually, we're going to need a leader because a lot of the people aren't going to go along with this. And you know what he calls the leader? He calls the leader the prince. And then he's like, and then in the rest of the book, this is The Social Contract by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. This is one of the most important books in Western civilization, right? He says the prince will be running the show, actually,
Yeah,
because he understands, because he
yeah.
like understood already. He understood already. He was like, yeah, you know what? If people actually take me up on this shit, there's going to be a dictator.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. It just you couldn't.
In
You could,
every case, that's what's happened.
yeah, I
In
mean,
every case.
how else do you?
Napoleon was the first.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Like he predicted Napoleon. Like the French Revolution happens right after the book is published, and then
Right,
Napoleon happens right after that, and then every other, including Haiti, by the way.
right, right.
The Duvaliers emerge out of that shit.
So, what
Right.
do you know about Marx not writing Das Kapital, and in fact being handed that document?
I,
Not in totality. Not in totality.
why? That's what? Huh? No. Where do you
No,
get this from?
no secret cabal handed him
No.
this gnosis of communism.
Why?
You think
No.
You think Karl Marx invented that?
No.
Okay.
No. Get rid of that.
All right. Who gave Karl Marx his ideology?
He did himself. What do you mean? He was like a revolutionary thinker. Why is
Think he was
it
a thinker?
impossible? Why is it impossible for someone just to come up with a brand new idea?
Because I read his work and he seems like a dumbass.
No. Then you
Yeah.
didn't then you read Capital?
No, I read the 10 Planks of Communism.
Read Capital.
Okay.
Just read 5 pages of Capital and tell me
All right.
tell
Well,
me he's a dumb.
I've read more than 5 pages of Das Kapital, and I'm just
He's not he's not a dumbass. Come on. Come on. No, no, no. No. What? Wait, what is this? Is this like this is a conspiracy theory?
yes.
Right. So who's behind it, you think?
Uh, for lack of a better term, the Knights of the Round Table.
Are you getting at the redacted?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no,
Oh,
no.
what's the Knights of the Round Table?
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
Templar type, Freemasonry type cabal who operates in the background and pull. So, for example, they would bring Karl Marx into secret meetings and
Uh-huh.
teach him and groom him, right? Because what did Karl Marx actually create other than this document, right? His financier was Engels, so I look at Engels as actually being the intellectual, right?
Hmm.
And
Wow.
Marx being like the underling and the son. No,
Why? Like I don't like why do you need that theory? Like I don't even get it. Like what's the I don't know why
right,
you go
all right,
there. There's no
right. So, for example, when you create something nefarious, it's good to have a scapegoat, right? And it's good to have, like I said, like that leader, that Jesus like icon, right? So
okay.
so before you have socialism and communism, you have this thing called Marxism, right?
Right.
So why would something that's supposed to be so egalitarian, right,
Mm-hmm.
be so iconic at its inception instead of group coming together and coming up with this stuff, right? To write the works that he came together, I don't find capable of one individual.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, okay. I'll tell you two things. I to this day have never seen any evidence of any of that to
Okay.
support that claim at all. And I have
Right.
wait, let me finish. But I'm about to make you feel better in a second. Uh, and I've been studying this my whole life, literally,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Literally since I was born, basically, right? So
Right.
I've never heard any. Okay,
That's why
how
I'm asking you
how
because I need the
how
contrast.
however, however, like I didn't know a whole lot of shit.
Right.
Right. And even to this day, I've been a professional historian of the United States for 25 years now. Like,
Hmm.
that's my profession for 25 years. Like, this is what I
Hmm.
do.
Hmm.
I've learned stuff. I think I just mentioned some stuff in this interview that I just learned recently that like blew me away, like that completely changed my mind about things. Right.
Right.
Also, and this is not, I mean, I'm kind of like giving like a big general answer to your question,
Hmm.
and this is more about like how I feel about conspiracy theories in general. Okay.
Hmm.
And I've been wanting to tell you this. Like, um, the, there's, for one thing, most of the conspiracies that have been important have been open conspiracies, meaning cultural.
Hmm.
Like, there's been no need to talk. For instance, Do you think the Democratic governors need to call each other right now and say, you know what, let's extend the lockdown because it'll fuck up the economy and win us the election?
No.
They don't need to. They know. They
Yeah.
know. So there's
Yeah.
World War II is like one example where there was an actual conspiracy of like a handful of men sitting in a room in the 1930s that were like, you know what, we're going to go to war in this way, in these countries, and we're going to have this outcome, and we're going to be the superpower. Done. But other than that, they don't need theories. I mean, they don't need conspiracies.
Mm.
Oh, then as for like whether we should be dismissive toward conspiracy theories or not, all you got to do is just list goddamn pretty much a random like 5 to 10 things that the CIA has actually done
Yeah.
that we know, like there's
Yeah.
no disputing that they've done. Like
Right.
some of the craziest shit you can't even see in the movies.
Right.
The shit they thought about and the stuff they thought about doing that they didn't do, like be, you know, I mean, it's insane. And and we don't even know, like a lot of that stuff still hasn't been declassified.
Mm-hmm.
They were overthrowing whole governments, like
Yes.
by doing every dirty deed there is possible. And like, you know, so what they did to Fred Hampton, conspiracy.
Right.
I'm sorry, what they did to the Black Panthers, COINTELPRO. That was a multi-year conspiracy. They had infiltrators in every Black Panther organization. They took that organization down. And by the way, you know what other organization was taken down by COINTELPRO?
Who?
The Ku Klux Klan. This is, again, check this out. That was the primary target of the COINTELPRO program after the Panthers dissolved. The FBI and the COINTELPRO program, which had been used to destroy the Black Panthers, was then used to destroy the Ku Klux Klan in the 1970s.
Why?
Same shit, exactly. They infiltrated and they set them up to commit crimes, and then they busted them. Same shit with the Panthers.
Why?
Right, because here's the thing, everybody, in Hotep Jesus. The fight isn't between black and white, everybody. It's between the state and all of us.
Facts. And these groups are
Mic
anti-state for the most part. For the most part.
Yeah, I mean, right?
All right, so let me ask you this: was Karl Marx a Freemason?
No, man, get this. No, what the fuck? What is it? What?
No. So you're telling me you're gonna sit up here and tell me
yes.
Karl Marx was not a Freemason?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I gotta take all these alternative facts and throw it at the guru and let you dissect them.
But if you had told me in 1960 that the CIA would try to blow up another foreign leader by putting explosives in his cigar, I'd have said you're crazy. But they fucking did that, among many other things. So you know, I'm like holding out some possibility. I'm an agnostic. How about that?
Right. Me too. Very much so.
But doubt
the thing
it.
is, I have to take these things that people spread and I have to bring them to the forum to allow you to, you know, either dispel or expand upon. Right.
I've never seen any evidence, but then that doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
Everybody heard it here first. Thaddeus Russell said Karl Marx is not a Freemason.
No, sir. I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it strongly.
I'm going to make sure I prove you wrong one day.
That would make me so happy. I love that. Yeah, I'm serious.
All right, so we go from Marx. Marx is succeeded by in
the pantheon of the left, like who's the next like really important figure?
Yeah,
I mean Lenin.
Okay, Lenin. Okay.
There's some
right.
There are non-Marxist socialists between Marx. So Marx is operating in the early 19th century, okay?
Right.
And Lenin takes control in 1917. So it's like an 80 or 70 year gap between the two guys.
Right.
In between, there's like a lot of non-Marxist socialists who gain power, including in this country. But they're like Christian. They believe in like one big family.
Okay.
You know, kind of my fantasy of socialism was kind of a Christian fantasy, right? God is the father and we're all his children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then Lenin comes along though, and he's the big game changer. And so every Marxist since him has been a Leninist essentially, because he was like, here's how to put this shit into practice.
Mm.
Until now, it's basically been theoretical, and like we've been playing games, and there's like little socialist parties here and there, but we never took control of anything.
Mm-hmm.
We never took control of any industry. We certainly never took control of any country. And he's like, got an idea, guys. Let's not go for the like advanced capitalist countries like Germany and England and France. Let's go. There's this poor ass country over here where I'm from with a really weak ass government, right? Where we actually have a shot because the government is so small and the country is so poor. We could actually pull this shit off without raising too much of an army. Which,
Right.
by the way, the Bolshevik Revolution was. People don't realize this. They think it was like some mass uprising of people. The Bolshevik Revolution was like a coup, basically. I
Uh-huh.
mean, the Mensheviks were the first.
Right.
They were like sort of Bernie Sanders AOC types, but
Yeah.
they just like snuck in. They took over, and then almost immediately, the Bolsheviks came in, executed all of them, and took over. But
Mm.
the point is, like the Bolsheviks probably, I'm sure, we're less than 1% of the population. Like the actual revolutionaries, the actual people fighting, I'm sure it was less than 1% of the population, right?
Mm.
Yet we think of it just like the civil rights movement, by the way. Like I did the math. Like if some old black person says they were like at some civil rights march, doubt them. It's like every American's also descended from Cherokees. You ever notice that? Like every white person
Yeah.
thinks, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't think so.
Yeah. I got Native American in my blood. Yeah. Yeah.
It's about
Yeah.
1%. If you do the math, it's about 1% maybe of black people at the time participated in a civil rights like protest or something. But
Mm.
so yeah, a whole lot of
So all right.
mythology out there, man.
So all right. So then we go Lenin, right? And then
Yeah,
Lenin
Lenin.
comes Stalin.
So Lenin's like, all right, we're gonna jumpstart this shit. We're gonna get like a peasant, poor ass country to do it first instead of an advanced capitalist country. So we're already like breaking the Marxist rule, right? Because Marx was like, this is gonna happen in an advanced capitalist country.
Uh,
And Lenin and Trotsky are like, well, yeah, but like, well, anyway, we're gonna do it here.
yeah. So what country did they choose?
Russia. So in 1917, Russia's like got like a tiny capitalist core. Like it's a very
Okay.
unindustrialized compared to like Western Europe and America. Like it didn't have shit going on in terms of
Right.
capitalism. It was a peasant. It was like, I don't know, 80, I think it was 80% peasant, like people who had
Mm.
never left the land, like slave,
Mm.
basically almost like serfs, almost like slaves,
Right.
almost. Um, so they have the revolution is terrible.
That's against Tsar Nicholas.
They kill the Tsar Nicholas and his family.
Right.
It's miserable. There's a civil war with like 9 different factions fighting each other for 2-3 years,
Mm.
including the United States. By the way, Woodrow Wilson actually sends an army force over from Alaska into Russia to fight against the Bolsheviks too. No one knows about that shit either.
Mm.
Bolsheviks got like 8 different armies fighting them at the same time, but somehow, and you got to give them some credit, like they managed to win the war.
Mm.
They execute a whole bunch of anarchists. Everyone listening, go look up Kronstadt with a K, the Kronstadt Rebellion. This was an anarchist rebellion against the Bolsheviks, and the Bolsheviks shot them down in cold blood. And
Mm.
if the Kronstadt rebels, the anarchists, had won that fight, world history might have been really, really different.
Mm.
Those were our homeboys right there. That was like the original heroes to like anybody who's an anti-statist.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
those are the martyrs, man. That's
What was that? So what were they classifying themselves as anarchists?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
they
You
got
use that word.
drafted. They
Okay.
got drafted, conscripted by the Bolsheviks into the Red Army, into the Navy,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
And they were like, "Fuck no, we're not going to go on." They were in uniforms. They got taken to the ships, and they said, "Nope, we're not going to get on this ship."
Mm.
And they fought it out, and they fought, and they got murdered, they got assassinated, executed, and but it was like there was like a major anarchist rebellion within at the very beginning of the Russian Revolution,
Mm.
and the Bolsheviks won. So okay, so Trotsky, my parents' dude, he was the head of the Red Army, and he was the
Right.
one who called the shots in the Kronstadt Rebellion.
Mm.
My
Mhm.
parents' dude shot my heroes. That's how sick everything is, man.
Trotsky was a bad motherfucker.
He was a horrible human being, and he was terrible. Like, he killed fucking hordes of people. He was the executioner. He was the head of the military. He was the hitman.
Yeah.
So he and Lenin are running things. They win the war. They take control. They impose communism. It's miserable. There's forced collectivization. There's starvation. And then in the 1930s, so Lenin dies earlier. Then there's like a jockeying for position as to who's going to take control of the Soviet Union, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trotsky's the main leader. He's like, oh shit, this is going to be mine. I'm going to be the man. Mm-hmm. Joe Stalin is this like up and coming young Bolshevik revolutionary, handsome, charismatic, and he like works his way up to the top and manages to take control and get all of his opponents executed publicly. Has these show trials in the 1930s. Then Joe Stalin takes control of the Soviet Union, and the rest is basically history. Like, then from then until the end of the Soviet Union is basically a Stalinist society, where it's like totally top down, controlled by the Kremlin, controlled by a handful of men, command and control economy, building up missiles in a military because they're scared shitless of the United States as fast as they can. They know they can't win that war, so they're just like holding on for dear life. Their people are much more interested in like jazz and blue jeans than in communism. And then the whole thing just falls apart. And it's the most amazing moment in world history, because you know what happens? Like, that huge, massive regime, armed to the teeth, all people did was walk away from it. There wasn't a shot fired. No one died in 1991. Like, in 1991, every Soviet person just was like, walked off their job, walked away from the military bases, was like, we're done. And they were like, okay. I mean, because there's nothing you can do. So it was a nonviolent, huge revolution against authoritarianism. And like, the people won. And like, that should be an international holiday every year. 1991.
Who was the leader? Was that Gorbachev then, or who was that leader?
Yeah. Well, actually, at the very end, it was it Andropov? But Gorbachev was the main. Yeah, I mean, it was mostly Gorbachev who's like loosened it up. I was in the Soviet Union in 1987. I went on a trip there for 2 weeks. It's fascinating. Okay. It's fascinating. Yeah.
So, there's another conspiracy theory.
All right, let's do it.
The communists leave Europe and infiltrate the United States of America. True or false?
Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, in many ways, sure. Like, that's like an understatement in a way, but like, but it could also be. It depends on what you mean. It could also be an overstatement. But like, fuck yeah, like, so
like the same people in power there have become in power in positions of power in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, not to the extent that like you and a lot of people on the alt-right, and like Curtis Yarvin thinks. Like, Curtis Yarvin, Mencius Moldbug, like, he thinks it's like this whole lineage of communism, and progressivism and communism are all the same. And like, and he even connects it to the abolitionists. He's like, the abolitionists are the same as the progressives, and the progressives are the same as the communists, and the communists are the same as Obama and Clinton and the Democratic Party. And I'm like, Curtis, I need to see a little more on that, but before I buy that. But so in two ways, there have been definite like infiltrations, but not maybe in the way you're thinking exactly. So like, immigration, like, it was fucking true. Like, immigrants were bringing communism into this country. That's what was said to justify restricting immigration. Like, I'm an open borders guy, but like, it was totally true. Like, fucking half the Jews practically were like socialists of some kind. Like, every Jew I've ever known, and I've known a whole lot, like, has a socialist in their family. Like, Jews are left wing as fuck. Like, and like, and I'm from, my mother's half Jewish, and like, she's, commie, and like, I mean, right. So, and Italians too. Italians brought a lot of anarchism here. There's a lot of Italian anarchists. Sacco and Vanzetti were the famous ones who were executed. Um, Russians brought in all kinds of, socialism. Yeah. So that was one way, but it wasn't like orchestrated. It wasn't orchestrated. Not that one. Not that one. So that's like the early 20th century. But that's when we got a bunch of like Marxists and socialists and communists in here.
Right.
Was through immigration. Totally. Okay. But hold on now. So then you got the Communist Party, capital C, capital P, the one that worked with the Soviet Union, that was created by the Soviet Union.
Okay.
These were literally actually agents of the Soviet Union inside the United States, right?
Right.
The CPUSA, right? That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yes.
So they're established in the 1920s, basically, or 19 teens, but they become huge in the 1930s. Like, as I said, I think like 500,000 or 1 million members, but then there's like several million people who are really, really close to the party, so that they may as well be members. Okay, so we're talking about, and that's when the United States was about 200 million, maybe something like that. It was much smaller, so like, and a lot of those people were in Hollywood, and a lot of those people, yes, in fact, were in the government. Yes, and a lot of those people were in fact teachers. Yes, and a lot of them were professors. Yes, and scientists. Yes, true, and novelists and screenwriters. Yes, and musicians. Woody Guthrie. Yes, and then they got all kicked out of the paint in the 1950s, right? And
by the who?
They got kicked out. I mean, of all those professions by by McCarthy. I say kicked out of the paint, pushed out, moved out of the paint.
Oh yeah.
Be out of those positions, right? Out of the center, out of this. I used the paint deliberately because it was the center of society they were in. Okay. So you're right. And here's the thing. They were taking orders directly from Moscow. Yes, sir. Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you were a member, you had to. That was the point of it. It's it's like joining the Nation of Islam and not taking orders from Elijah Muhammad. Like, no, that's the point. Like that's right. Like, so yeah, right. They were deliberately infiltrating, and some of them were saboteurs and spies, and the Rosenbergs were actually, yes, they were stealing military secrets, and they were executed for it. Right, but they really were. We now know they really were Soviet spies. It's so funny. For years, though, like the left, you know what they would say about the Rosenbergs always? Now they just don't mention them anymore. But for years, the Rosenbergs were like the big martyrs. Like they were like huge martyrs, like almost like Emmett Till, like almost like that, right? Oh wow! Whoa, the Rosenbergs, they were murdered. They were executed by the state, and like I'm of course opposed to the state executing anybody, but like. And it was like, they were innocent. They were innocent. Oh my, these poor innocent Jewish people in Brooklyn were murdered by the state for nothing. Turns out they were working straight up for the Kremlin, stealing like atomic secrets to build a bomb with. You know what I mean? Like, so like,
yeah.
The left is so fucking, it's like, you're either revolutionaries or you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they were revolutionaries, the Rosenbergs. And you know what happens when you're a revolutionary? You often get killed.
That's part of being a revolutionary.
Like, go talk to Nelson Mandela and Steve Biko about like what a revolutionary is, right? Like, go talk to Ho Chi Minh, right? And the fucking, North Vietnamese in the 1960s about what it means to be a revolutionary. Do you think they were like, stop killing us, it's not fair? Like, what the fuck do you think a revolution is?
Yeah.
Why are they so mean to us with their police? What? You didn't like these people nowadays who call themselves revolutionaries and start crying when a cop like bumps them? I'm like, they fucking tortured Steve Biko to death in the jail until he died, you fucking little children. Are you talking? Like, if you're going to be a revolutionary, be a revolutionary. Like, otherwise it's just, you're playing in the sandbox.
Yeah, it comes with it.
Yep.
Okay. I'm unpacking some of the stuff you're saying.
There's a lot here.
Yeah, it's a lot. All right. So I have a little bit of sympathy towards some of the socialists, and I want to say early 19th century America, where they're not of the CP variety. They're more of, I'm being treated unfairly by corporations variety, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I don't agree with people throw all socialists out, right? With the bad ones. And I'm like, there are some socialists out here who got some sense, and the things that they're fighting for do make sense,
Yeah.
and socialism may work in pockets, right?
Yeah. Right. That's an awesome point. And also I would say another thing to say about that is that like the early socialists that I was talking about, like the pre-Marxist ones, like, so Eugene Debs, by the way, is the most famous one. He got 1 million votes for president, like in 1912, 1920, I think, somewhere in there. He got 1 million votes for president. Then he went to prison for opposing World War I also. He did time, like serious time in prison for opposing the war. And he got 1 million votes for the Socialist Party for president. Like, and he was not a Marxist. He was a Christian socialist. So, and he had some problems for sure. But what you're saying though, and by the way, my great grandparents were Socialist Party members. Then even like my whole shit is left wing. I'm like all the way back to then. But the corporations, the business, the massive corporations that they were fighting against, like the railroads.
Yeah.
What kind of fucking help do you think they got from the government?
None. Actually, the people didn't get help. The corporations got help.
Yeah, no, the railroads
the National Guard was pulled out for the corporations.
Exactly. How would you like it if like the federal government was like, yay, Hotep Jesus he's going to build this, it's going to be this like road that goes from New York City to San Francisco. But the thing is, all the way from here to there, there's like about 1 million savages who will like kill any worker who will attempt to build the road. So, but what we're going to do as a federal government, we're going to devote the whole fucking military, the army, to protecting all of his workers all the way across the country will kill all the savages who try to get in the way of building the road. That was just the beginning of what the state, the government, and its monopoly on violence did for those fucking corporations that the socialists didn't like so much. So thank you for defending socialists. Back then. My great grandparents, not my parents. My parents were fucking psychos, but my great grandparents, they were okay.
Yeah, I think that's such an important nuance to have, right? Because then you can start to have a conversation with modern day socialists, right? And you can start to sympathize with some of the gripes that they have. And then you can start showing them the state, right? This is how you red pill socialists. In order to red pill socialists, you first have to understand that their gripes are legitimate. Many of their gripes are legitimate.
Yeah.
And then work from there and then show them the ties to the state.
You know what? To me, like the whole and I didn't realize this until like I left the left. Like I realized that when I was on the left, which means until I was like 35 or something like that, maybe even later, I didn't have a real theory of the state. Like I didn't really know that it was the monopoly on violence. I didn't know that theory yet. That's embarrassing. I had a PhD in history, man, from Columbia, in social science. And they never told me that.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's partly my fault, of course, because I could have found it out. But like I'm saying, they never taught that to us.
Because they're an agent of the state.
This is like PhD, Ivy League in history.
Yeah.
In a social science. They never said there's a theory by this guy, Max Weber, that's really important, that the state is the legitimate authority on monopoly on violence. Like, God damn, that's important.
Yeah.
Like they think you just get tickets if you like violate a law, like, and that's all that ever is going to happen to you.
Oh no.
My mother, I had this argument with her. She does this all the time. I said, Mom, you understand, right? Like really bad things happen at the end of the day if you fight the state in any way. Like if you don't do what they tell you to. She's like, no, you just get tickets. She said, like with a traffic ticket. You just get a ticket. I said, yeah, right. You get a ticket. Okay, so then what happens if you don't pay it? You get another ticket. I said, yeah, right. What if you don't pay that? Da-da-da. And I said, yeah, well, her name is Corinne Gaines. Do you know who Corinne Gaines was? The woman in Maryland who had some traffic tickets. She didn't want to pay. She didn't want to pay. And finally, Mom, I said, they sent the SWAT team to her house. Right? And the SWAT dude shows up at her front door and Corinne is sitting at her kitchen table with a shotgun, as she should have. And she sees a man with a rifle at her front door and she raises a shotgun, as she should have, and they fucking killed her in front of her child.
Yeah.
Over left turns. and red, I don't know, stop signs, what traffic.
Right. Traffic violations.
So, and I don't give a fuck that she was black,
Right.
and I don't give a fuck that that cop was white,
Yeah.
because it happens to white people all the fucking time.
Yeah.
But they don't even understand that, like, the state, that's what it's about. It's
Yeah.
about death,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
about that level of shit.
Yeah. And that's my beef with the left is, they want to talk about, all these systems of white supremacy. And it's just like, all right, let's say we wave the magic wand and we put this system under, socialism or communism. Oh, you're going to hate your life then. You just gave them like total control and power. Right. And
Isn't that
I
it? Just, I'm like, yeah, I know it. I've
don't
been so I don't ever use red pill, but like, okay, like, I guess my way of like trying to get into the heads of people like this is to say, like, before you get into like any issue, like in any depth, just start off by being like, talking about their feelings about one entity, the government.
mm,
Right. And don't talk about who's in the government, right? Just
right.
the government, right? And just like, how do you feel about the government, right? And it'll be
Mm,
negative. It'll
right.
always be negative, and it's probably going to be like really negative if you just say the government, like in the abstract.
Yeah.
And then you're
Yeah.
like, cool, I'm so glad we agree. Government
Right.
sucks, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then they're like, already they're like, oh shit, wait, no, hold up, Nancy Pelosi's better. Nancy Pelosi's better. I'm like, no, she's not.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Uh, so, but yeah, but then I'm like, then I make your argument, which is that's the closing, that's where you seal it, which is like, okay, so this thing that you hate so much, ew, and like also look at like all the things it's produced that you say ew about, right?
Mm,
Like the disgusting schools and libraries and all the shit shitty roads. Oakland's got like more potholes than road here, by the way.
yeah.
And New Orleans, same thing, whatever. Anyway, that thing, as you were saying, you want to give them you want to make sure that they have all the guns, first of all. So you have no way to fight back. You're telling me that the president now is a fascist and a Nazi and the head of the Ku Klux Klan, but you want to make sure that we don't have any guns to fight against him? You guys didn't dig logic.
It's like all thought was just like completely removed from the conversation.
I mean, because my fucking like, dog can understand that argument. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm sorry, like, we just elected Hitler, let's give him all our guns.
Right. Right.
You think that's what the Jews did in 1933? They're like, oh shit, Hitler's the king now. Here's our guns,
Right.
boss. Like,
Right. Makes absolutely
no.
no sense. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but on top of that, then it goes deeper than that. In a way, it's even worse than that, because then they're like, we need. Well, what are they talking about now? They're talking about federal jobs guarantee.
Uh-huh.
They
Uh-huh.
want us to work for Trump.
Uh. 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 Uh.
They
That's
want
exactly what that
Trump
means.
to be our employer.
Uh.
These people are the left used to be smart, man. Like, it doesn't, what? Wait, he's the worst thing in the whole wide world, but we want him to be my boss.
Right. Right. Right.
And it won't be me, because I'm a wealthy white, relatively wealthy. It's going to be the people you seem to care about so much.
Right. Right.
Is Jamal in Newark, who's going to be working for Donald Trump.
That's your new boss. You're right.
That's what you want. You want Jamal in Newark to be wearing a uniform with, what do you think the uniform is going to have on it? It's going to have the American flag on it. And it's going to be a uniform. It's going to be a work uniform with the American. Now, what does Jamal look like all of a sudden?
Mm.
It
Mm.
looks like a chain gang.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it why are these dots so far apart for these people?
My other problem with socialists is they've demonstrated no capability of demonstrating that this idea works even in the small packs of their groups. There's no type of pooling of assets. There's no,
Oh yeah.
there's no community, right? And we can't even consider the Chop Act because we know that was some hack organization from Antifa, but they've never even attempted to even create an economy and to see how inefficient their way of living would be.
Nope. No. I think because, as I said, most of the left is animated primarily by a desire to kill those they envy, to hurt or kill others. I mean, sorry, not all,
Right.
but I think the leaders, I think
Right.
the hardcore, the ones certainly fighting in the streets, like the Antifa, no doubt. That seems obvious. Do I have to
Right.
even explain that? Like
Right.
those
Right.
kids in Portland, man. Ugh, God, I want to kick some ass so bad.
Right.
God damn, I want to.
What you think about Portland?
I can't stand it because I used to live near there, and the Antifa in Portland is so crazy, like,
Yeah.
and they can't even fight well. So I just oof.
I feel like the mayor just and the governor just dropped the ball on that.
You've never witnessed such psychotic white guilt in your life as in Portland, Oregon. It is. I think it's because there's so few black people or something, but like the white people in Oregon are like extra crazy about it. They're like super duper crazy.
Mm.
It's really weird up there. Like they're all really obsessed with race and black people and whiteness, and there's like no black people. There's not even they don't even have Mexicans there.
Right.
Not even Asians in Portland. It's amazing. There's a West Coast town with no Latinos or Asians. I'm like, how did you manage this? And at the same time, they're like, all they talk about is black people, as if like it's relevant. Like, what do you? It's like, so it's all like taking place elsewhere. The shit that they're talking about, or not taking place at all, but it's not taking place in Portland. I can tell you that much. There's no. So anyway, it's just a crazy town, and then it's dominated by people like that. So the mayor, I think, is just kind of like, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like, it's my citizenry. They're crazy. Like,
yeah,
they are. It's just a very weird group of white people. It's like, and the fact that it's all white, I think, actually, like, has a strange I mean, it makes it even more crazy because it's more insular, right? Like the culture is it's a mono culture.
Yeah.
It's all like white middle class hipster kind types. It's not even white working class. It's not like there's no Trump types.
No.
And they all drink the same coffee, like literally, right? And like it's the same. The politics are identical. Like there's like, and it creates like intellectual inbreeding and stupidity. I think. And crazy and like psychosis. Like you start thinking the Ku Klux Klan is everywhere because you're like looking at yourself all the time. You get nuts, right?
Right.
I guess. I don't know. But don't move there.
And so I guess that's like that hive mind groupthink creates linear thinking. And then you have these blinders on and that's all you see. So that becomes your reality.
It does. So I got about 5 more minutes.
All right, let me just finish off with the super chats here.
Yeah, absolutely.
John the Baptist Jr. That's one hell of a name.
Good
He
name.
Said, would you say that some Afrocentric ideology is distorted and misleading?
Is he asking me or you?
I'm gonna say he's asking you.
All right. I do know a lot about the history of Black nationalism, as you and I discussed when you were on my show. But actually, I will say that the portion of it that I don't know well is the Afrocentric portion. I mean, I know the Ron Karanga crowd. I know like the Temple University crowd. I know like the academic side of it a little bit, but I don't actually know that stuff. I mean, I know of course, I know the basic philosophy and shit. Like, it's an origin story, right? Essentially, to me, and like everybody's got an origin story. Every group's got an origin story. They're all at least partly mythical. So like, I don't really care, first of all, about this one way or the other. Like, so there's that, like, as to whether it's true or not, all this stuff in Afrocentric, I don't really care. It's secondary importance to me. What's important to me is the politics of it. Okay. And the politics of it, as I've said many times, is very much part of this Black nationalist lineage of a decolonized mind is what I call it, or what Fanon would say, which is like not caring about the white man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Decentering, taking the white man out of the center of your mind, which is what was it Lauryn Hill said,
Mm-hmm.
right? Also, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you have said, and I, so like, so that's to me where it was good, and that's really the end of it for me, because that's really all I ever ask of white people. I mean, sorry, of black people,
Mm-hmm.
is to get me out of their head,
Yeah, yeah,
is to stop worrying about me.
yeah.
That's the
So,
only thing I have to ask. Do your thing. Don't worry about me. You know?
um, John Lemmy said, "I'm still sick that Rosa Parks is in the title of a hook of one of the better songs of Aquemini."
Hey,
Charlie,
wait a second. I
yeah,
mean, look. They did desegregate the fucking buses, okay? So this is not a small. I wasn't like saying Rosa Parks, therefore, is like sucks, but
right, right.
let's be clear. She's still a hero. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure. For
yeah.
sure.
You're just talking about Puritanism.
Total hero. But yeah.
Charlie $5 super chat. He said, "Do you believe that BLM heads actually understand Marxist theory, especially since their focus is on identity?"
Hell no. They haven't read Cap. You think they've read Capital? Hell no.
No, probably not.
Hell
Uh,
no.
John Lemley said, "No need to claim Cherokee blood as a Caucasian when you're actually descendant of real Indian tribes like the Creeks."
I mean, every
uh,
yeah.
Halima, thank you for the super chat, Halima. I'll see you tomorrow morning at the Mogul Summit. Krista Manal, $5 super chat. That's all the super chats right there.
All right.
Great chat, bro. I'm gonna have to play this back, take my notes, and do some studying. But
Yeah.
thank you for coming through. We're gonna do this again. You know what I'm
All right.
saying?
Anytime, man.
Yeah.
I'm
But
yours. I told you I'm yours.
I appreciate that. If you guys haven't already, make sure y'all go out and get A Renegade History of the United States by Thaddeus Russell. Very good document here, very well researched. Primary, he's going out and getting the sources his damn self, traveling, getting on planes, and getting the sources his damn self, which I think is commendable in itself. But yeah, thanks for that. About that, appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Oh
See you
yeah,
soon.
see you
Have a
soon,
good
bro.
one. All right. Peace.
It's been another uncomfortable conversation, people. As always, I'm your benevolent host, Hotep Jesus. I'll be back next week. I'm gonna try to get Doe Dubes on the platform to speak to y'all. Hopefully, we can get some timing situation going. Um, Thaddeus Russell, if you check the description box link, you can go become a member of the Renegade University. I'm a member myself. There's a wealth of information in that university. That's Thaddeus's group, and it's got videos in there, and you guys can increase your history knowledge. Shout out to Sketch Therapy and Raider holding me down in the chat as moderators. Chad holding me down as always. I appreciate that. A copy of this will be available on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/HotepJesus. So you guys will be able to check that out. And as Raider has just informed us, Hotep's been told you every single Thursday. My relationship show is on Wednesdays, 9:30 Eastern time, Pacific. So make sure y'all tune in to my channel then. Before you leave, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please subscribe to bring you a lot more valuable content. Be safe and enjoy your weekend.